Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap for the season this year. But the 90-minute clock still remains. We are still waiting for technical inspection results. And you know what that means? We're doing the disqualification show. A lot of ground to cover. I'm going to share the link here as we get started, as we do each week of the season. And time to put a cap on, quite a few things, to be honest. So here we go. Let me get this going. Is now live. Included will with usual race reviews. Okay, let's get that all up here. I have not seen the video with Doritos and Mountain Dew. I have not seen the Front Row Motorsports video, but I'm going to definitely have to check that out. Whoop, oh, we didn't get the screen pulled up. We should do that. Are you back with the screen? Bam, there we go. Why is that still like that? There we go. Tweak that there. Okay. Whoop. Almost forgot I was going to copy the link here and get ourselves going. Oh. I'm laughing because our own little fantasy competition that we have here back at Last Car headquarters, my fantasy pick to win the race was Kyle Larson. So, guess what happened there? I tell you, I'm consistently inconsistent, and that's definitely not the first time that I've actually managed to pick somebody thinking they'll win and end up taking the last spot. I've had some pretty good examples of that this year alone, to be perfectly honest. But that's part of the fun now, isn't it? Okay, there we go. I got the link posted on the Twitter feed here. Okay, good. Okay, so alrighty. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the season. We started this year with the disqualification show for the Daytona 500. We've gone through a number of incarnations of it this whole season. I appreciate y'all sticking with me. But we now come to the season finale, and we got a lot of ground to cover for sure. So, first and foremost, as was mentioned in the chat, we are on championship watch now. Now, with Kyle Larson, unofficially your last place finisher, and he not being one of the original drivers that was in position to take the last car championship this season, we now are still waiting on the results from technical inspection to see if BJ McLeod is indeed your champion for 2019. We do have the certificates all ready to go. These are all printed up earlier this week. And what we're going to do along the way here, I think it would be kind of a fun deal, is after the technical inspection results come in, I'm going to give away the other 3 for the drivers that didn't win the championship, and we'll do the trivia thing to kind of merge into that, and we'll do contest for those, and whoever wants which one will do that. But we'll wait till after technical inspection comes in, because whoever does win the championship, that one is going to get mailed over to the team, and I'll sign all of these here, and we'll have those ready. And it's on the exact same paper that we used for the ones back at Phoenix last week for Joe Nemechek and JJ Yaley. So look ahead to that during the show this evening. We're going to run the show a little bit longer tonight. Of course, we got plenty of stuff to cover, but first and foremost, we're going to definitely cover everything from Homestead as we wait along the way. And we'll talk about 3 before February as well, the video that was just posted last night. Thank you again to everyone who participated in that deal there. So, yeah, definitely thank you all for checking in on that. Make sure you check out the video up on this same channel as well. And we'll have some more to talk about that. So kind of skipping around a bit because we're going to be kind of going at things in all directions. So we're going to jump into that. Let's see where everything else is here. Okay. Let's see. Looking at the comments there, yeah. Look, Kamikaze asked about Ross Chastain. Yeah, Chastain had an issue. I think Racing Underdogs put up a tweet that they were having a problem with the oil line or an oil leak, and that it caused left him in the garage area for a long time. What's unusual when you have a race like this at home, at Homestead or one of these high downforce tracks, does lend itself to having a pretty competitive last place battle, just because the attrition is so low, and a small incident could be a big difference there in terms of who's going to be at the back of the field and who is not. That was certainly the case today. In spite of what may have been a rather placid battle for the lead for most of the race, and very few incidents actually on the track, the back of the field actually ended up being kind of a big part of the story. So I'm going to go over my notes here again and go back to the beginning. With Timmy Hill being at the back of the field, driving for Motorsports Business Management, getting the 66 car back out there after they had an engine failure at Phoenix last week with Joey Gase behind the wheel. Radio transmissions then indicated that Gase was actually the spotter for the number 66 this week, with Hill in the car there following up his Xfinity run on Saturday. There was other communications that were posted on Twitter, not by myself, but by others, that were mentioning that Timmy Hill had to do a short run yesterday in the Xfinity race because the tires that were going to be used for that 13 car were then being held over for the Cup race on Sunday. And so that's the situation why Timmy Hill was able to have tires to run the 66 car in the race itself. Unfortunately, it turned out to be kind of a challenging afternoon for the bunch there at Carl Long's team. Let's get back here. Oh, come on. Loading. And to get to the back of it here, we actually got quite a few more notes on this than that it seemed like it was going to be. But a pretty tight battle there at the back of the field during the early laps. Didn't see any drivers get sent back to the rear of the field before the start. More or less ended up being the same lineup there at the tail end of the field. And let me get back to the bottom here. So, yes, we got BJ McLeod back there, the number 53. He was in position to clinch the last car championship and did not need to finish last in order to do so, since he had that finish lead there over the other competitors behind him. All he needed to do was make sure that one of the other drivers did not finish last and set up a different situation there. And let's get the points up here as well. Come on. There we go. So after Phoenix, coming into the race, BJ McLeod with 3 last place finishes, very much the same with McDowell, Eric Jones, and Chase Elliott. Elliott getting the last place finish at Phoenix. All 4 of those drivers with 3 last place finishes apiece. Cody Ware was also eligible, but apparently that the Rick Ware team was working on some stuff there with their developing sports car program there. So Ware was not entered in the Cup race. That brought it down from 5 drivers to 4. And Chase Elliott, Eric Jones, and Michael McDowell looking to take the spot away from BJ McLeod, with BJ having more bottom 5s and bottom 10 finishes. Again, that was the reason that any of those drivers behind him would have to take the lead outright with the last place finish themselves. And that is thus why we had the certificates over there. The pace laps, BJ McLeod flirted with falling at the back of the field there with Timmy Hill. With 1 to go, the BJ McLeod and Timmy Hill were still in the final row. But then when the race actually started, you had an issue there with the number 52 of Josh Bilicki end up throwing his hat into the ring there at that point. Pretty tight battle there between the BJ McLeod and the other Rick Ware Racing injuries. Bilicki actually had an issue where he was dropping to the back of the field and apparently had handling problems underneath the front of the car. The lost a lap at lap 14, which has been the magic lap, really, especially these last couple of years. The leaders typically tend to catch the back of the field, and so a lot of drivers are losing a lap early. But what was interesting from a lot of that was the competition between the number 66 of Timmy Hill and the number 52 of Bilicki. The Rick Ware cars actually seem to be having a bit more speed than the Motorsports Business Management ones at Carl Long. And any time that the 52 was behind, he was able to reel in the 66 and eventually pass him. I believe there were at least 2 occasions that was happening in the early part of the race, and different drivers looking to actually compete against each other at that point. Josh Bilicki catching up at one point from a 5-second deficit on the 66 of Timmy Hill. That was expressed some of our earlier tweets there as well, and reeling them back in. We did, in fact, have a side-by-side battle on lap 63 between Bilicki and Hill as they were running door to door. That's when the 5-second gap was eliminated at that point. But during this whole time, of course, the race leaders were running such a torrid pace that they were losing laps at a high rate. They were between 5 and 8 laps down the early there, and it just continued to kind of go on from there. Let's see. But then there were problems there for the number 66 of Timmy Hill. They had a loose wheel that forced him down pit road at the exact same time as Ryan Newman. Then there was a uncontrolled tire penalty on the number 66 that forced them back in. That widened the gap between the 66 and the number 52. Rick Ware cars ended up kind of working their way up the field there a little bit. Then after that, you had Ross Chastain's issue. Again, first tweeted by Racing Underdogs there, going behind the wall after the crew, looking under the hood. And issues with the number 27 that dropped them back in the field. Bubba Wallace was also a factor in this, very much so, with brake issues. He was pumping the brakes on pit road, lost several laps, ended up falling towards the back of the field and briefly taking last place in the closing stages. But then the most surprising moment comes in the later stages when you had combined engine failures for both Kyle Larson, who was flirting with the top 5 finish there, being at least in best in class among the drivers that were not the championship for. He had the hood up there on pit road, was losing several laps as the crew was trying to diagnose what was going on. And then William Byron, with the loss of oil pressure coming down pit road, was creeping down so slow it looked like they're going to throw a caution for that. Ended up not being the case. 24 comes down pit road. He was going down to the garage area before the 42 got there because Larson's car had to be backed up to get back to the most recent garage entrance. Regardless, since Larson lost more laps than Byron in the time with his issues, that classified Larson behind Byron. So they dropped down through the lineup and behind Sorensen in the Spire Motorsports car, behind Hill and the other drivers towards the back. Finally taking the spot from Bubba Wallace at the end of the show there. Let's see, what was it? There was a couple people that were 24 laps down at the time. Let's see. That was the situation. Yes, that's right. It was Ross Chastain and Bubba Wallace were both 24 laps down on lap 234. But Larson, with the engine failure, dropped him to last. And the NASCAR officials 4 laps earlier than that on lap 230 indicated that they were both out with engine failure. And so that's the situation that we find ourselves in now. Now, it's interesting is none of the drivers that were expected to be a factor in the last car championship battle ended up being at the bottom of the field, which was certainly to McLeod's favor in the number 53 that really he basically controlled his own destiny there. That he didn't really have to worry about, most of anybody else finishing last in the field, and he didn't himself have to finish last. And so the odds were very high that you were going to have a situation like this. But it was interesting to see it play out that way and stretch quite that long. It was certainly within the top 5 of races at Homestead that have had the most laps completed by the last place finisher. You recall in this race last year, Regan Smith actually missed the start in the Levine Family Racing number 95 car, what's been his most recent Cup start. But did come back out onto the track and finish the race under power several laps down. One of just a few occasions that have seen drivers finish that many laps down, but still finish under power. Low attrition being a big signal there over at the track, at least in the Cup Series side. Xfinity and trucks is a very different story, and we'll certainly get into that as well. But that is where we find ourselves on that whole deal there. Let's see. And okay. Yes, indeed. We have the let's catch all this here. Hello, everyone. Just checking the comments again here. Thank you so much. We got 22 people in the chat. Say hi for sure. If you're new here, this is the end of the season here for us. We started doing these shows back in February to wait out the clock there on technical inspection. We're still working on kind of figuring out what I'm going to do over the off season. I tend to kind of back off the racing coverage a little bit just to kind of regroup and get ready for the next season. So we're not going to be doing weekly shows over the off season, but maybe a show here and there. We'll have some more information on the Twitter feed at Last Car on Brock to give you some more information on that. Let me get the race results pulled up here. and take a look at the rest of the field. That was a really unusual thing, though. I mean, having a situation where drivers were more or less staying in their own spots, much like we saw at Phoenix. So perhaps not that, but these drivers actually kind of just being more or less in the bottom of the field, and then things shaking up very quickly with just a couple of drivers blowing up and other cars falling to the back of the field. Made the closing laps of that race pretty exciting there. Even when Kyle Busch was seemingly on cruise control there at the end and clinching the championship. Again, pending inspection. None of the top championship 4 factors in the last car championship 4. The closest that came to it was certainly Chase Elliott last week after his elimination from the blown tire that sent him into the outside wall there at the ISM Raceway. But so if any of the championship 4 in the unlikely situation that any of them are in any way disqualified and classified last, that will not change anything for BJ McLeod's purposes. Eric Jones being the closest to any of the championship 4, of course, is the one remaining Joe Gibbs car that didn't actually make the championship 4 after his elimination following the Roval. Looking at the results here, your bottom 5. So again, unofficially, Kyle Larson in the 40th spot, William Byron in 39th, Joe Nemechek, apparently steering issues on the number 15 for Premium Motorsports, drop him to the 38th spot. Reed Sorensen, Spire Motorsports finishes out their first season in the bottom 5 in the 37th spot. And Josh Bilicki rounding out the bottom 5, the number 52, after his early battles there on the track. He ends up 27 laps down at the finish. We'll see when this reloads a bit here as to which one of those were actually out of the race and which ones were still under power at the finish. Last I saw, at least during the NBC broadcast, certainly like Nemechek, Byron, and Larson were out of the race. But beyond that, we'll get confirmation on everything else here as we go further along. Timmy Hill went from last on the grid to climb up to the 33rd position out there. Had an interesting paint scheme out there. It kind of looked at first to me like one of the Gaunt brothers cars, which I thought was kind of unusual. I don't know if that was a new chassis or just a new paint scheme or anything. That'll be something to look up here as things go. The race results have now just refreshed, and indeed, it looks like the bottom 5 were all out of the race, actually. I'll check that again as it refreshes a second time here. All right, 1, 2, 3. Yes, just the bottom 5 exclusively. So again, engine failures for both Byron and Larson, steering issues for Joe Nemechek, brake issues, the listed reason out for Reed Sorensen and Josh Bilicki. Everybody from 35th place, Ross Chastain, who held last place for most of stage 3 before Bubba Wallace's issues. And then, of course, Kyle Larson's ends up climbing out of the bottom 5 into the 35th spot. Bubba Wallace himself to 34th, Timmy Hill to 33rd. And from there, a different lineup from there. Drew Herring, I know there was a lot of controversy over that earlier this week, or at least seemed that way on social media. Questions about any possible effect on the championship. Certainly, since Drew has had a long history of being a test driver for Joe Gibbs Racing and driving a Toyota, of course, for the Gaunt brothers. What was going to be his role in this race? What was really the master plan? And ultimately, at least from what we're seeing in the broadcast, didn't really play a role in anything, at least not that we've seen with the championship 4 during the race. Finishes in the 29th spot, looks like 5 laps down in the number 96. So getting his first Cup start out of the way, as we talked about on the social media this week, of course, not unusual to have Cup drivers make their first Cup start in the season finale. Jeff Gordon did it in 1992. Scott Wimmer did it in 2000. Juan Pablo Montoya in 2006. And several more examples even beyond that. And they don't necessarily even have to be big name drivers. It could be just drivers just trying to make ends meet. Scott Wimmer's deal in 2000 was actually originally going to be an ARCA deal to run the ARCA race, but when rain wreaked havoc with the weekend schedule, they ultimately ended up qualifying the car in the Cup race, which is probably one of the last examples that I can think of an ARCA team actually getting their car into the Cup series, probably short of the field filler deals in 2004, but had to renumber the car into number 2004. I'm sorry. Got distracted by something on the screen there. Renumbered the car from 20 to 23, so I had a little bit of an unusual number font there on the car. But yeah, an interesting story there. It doesn't get talked about that much. And of course, 2000 season is something we'll be, of course, talking about tonight as well. I got something moving around on my screen here. Oh, I see. I had something moving. I was just making sure there wasn't smoke coming out of my computer or anything like that. We don't want that kind of show. I think I just have the okay. Yeah, got the NBC broadcast in the background of my screen here. Let me just get that off of here. Oh, there we go. Let's get that. Let's get that off of there. We don't need that. Okay, bingo. Gosh, see, overheating issues definitely a theme of this race as well. Brings us to the problem with Denny Hamlin there and the large piece of tape that will, I'm sure, go next to Dale Earnhardt's flat tire in the 1990 Daytona 500, and perhaps other, the piece of pea gravel that jammed into Ricky Rudd's transmission at Watkins Glen in 1999. Things that were ordinary objects that become infamous for their effect on a race result. You always hear further back about the errant sandwich bag or a hot dog wrapper or something that sticks to the grill. It's unusual to see a situation now where it's seemingly self-inflicted there, but again, it's desperation moves. It's one race, winner take all. You got to do whatever you can to get in there and get the best runs you can. And you can't blame them for trying. It's just unfortunate that had different deal out there. Yeah, we're not going to play the football broadcast on there. Last thing I need is any kind of copyright claim from the NFL. I do not have permission to broadcast or describe any part of the game in whole or in part without the express written permission of the National Football League. So we are not going to be doing that. So let's see. All right. Where were we left off here? Oh, yes. So again, looking at the cup results here and the other championship contenders, that at least in the NASCAR championship contenders, Michael McDowell shown in the 26th position. Then we move up further to Chase Elliott in the 15th position. And then beyond that, Eric Jones, he was top 5, wasn't he? Yeah, 3rd at the end of the finish there. So actually a lot of the NASCAR championship contenders doing a solid to decent job there in the championship finale. In the far and distant background of the championship quartet there. Let's see. Harvick in the 4th spot. And of course, Denny Hamlin with his issues, just barely getting his lap back, but finishing the 10th spot there unofficially in the results. So, looking at a lot of things, a lot of beginnings and endings. Of course, the news broke this past week with Daniel Suarez apparently out of the number 41 car and Cole Custer taking over next year. Also, other people wondering what car number he's going to be running, since the 00 is run by Starcom Racing. And as I pointed out earlier this week, during an interview with the Kohler brothers that operate Starcom Racing, they're very particular about picking the car number 00. Is that going to stay the same next season? Is there going to be something like that? Certainly who knows, but I'm sure we'll be getting, that's going to be one of the stories that we'll be hearing more about over this offseason and looking ahead to 2020. 2020 is always a strange year. It sounds like much further in the distant future than just a couple of months, but that's where we are. Jimmy Johnson 13th after unfortunately his second forgettable season. I would anticipate, I think one thing he needs to do is just completely change that paint scheme on that 48 car. I know they had the new paint scheme with Ally Bank and everything this year, but it wasn't fundamentally different from the Lowe's paint scheme last struggle so much. And I think just the one run he seemed to actually have a good race in, besides winning that stage at Pocono, was back at Darlington when he had that throwback scheme there for his old off-road truck. Seemed like that breathed some new life into him. So maybe going back to a white paint scheme or something just the exact opposite of whatever he's been running the last couple of years, maybe as a way to kind of breathe new life into everything. But that's just speculation there. Paul Menard and David Reagan both close out their final Cup Series starts as full-time Cup Series competitors. Paul Menard in the 17th position, and looking further back to David Reagan in the 27th position, both of them finishing under power. JJ Yaley, I was really impressed with him. Again, much like what we were following at Phoenix after he came back from the loose window net issue in qualifying, and actually seeing the pace that he had compared to maybe some of these other teams that one would think would typically finish in the last couple of spots. The Rick Ware teams have actually kind of stepped things up a little bit, just gradually. It's small steps, of course, but approximating closer to about a 30th place finish rather than about a 36th or 37th place position like they had in last year and the year before. Now, that said, the same time, I mean, the Rick Ware team has certainly struggled this year. We've been featured several times on the website here. I believe they had a pretty commanding lead in the Owners' Championship. And indeed, yeah, coming into this last race, had 9 last place finishes on the season. Nobody else with more than 4. No other team with more than 4. So a very different deal there. But still, 9 last place finishes out of 36 races. In the whole scheme of things, I guess not quite the biggest deal. Had a lot of unusual drivers and unusual teams trailing the field at the exact same time. And certainly BJ McLeod, if he does so happen to secure the last car championship this year, those runs have all been pretty much with the Rick Ware team, in addition to his efforts in the Xfinity Series with his own operation. And we'll get into the Xfinity race and the Truck Series race, of course, along the way here, because there was no shortage of stories in both of those. Let's see here. Whoop. Now that late, I understand that needs to be thorough. Expecting tech results might not be available till about 9 or 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, so we are okay. Well, you know what? That fits what we're doing here. We're going to be doing things kind of long. We're going to that doesn't change the strategy here. We're going to merge in again a discussion about 3 before February. I think it's important to get the championship stuff and the stuff from Homestead out first. I think the difference in tone is going to be certainly different from there, but I want to make sure we do that properly. But yeah, rough deal there for the Hendrick teams and for the Chevrolet teams in general. I mean, just again, we'll see what happens with the deal there with I guess they're going to do a new nose on the Chevrolets next year, or at least that was rumored. I mean, anything could help. I mean, I was just thinking about the 2000 season and how there was an extension on the noses of the Chevrolets that year with had similar complaints, and the more things change, the more they stay the same, and how big of a difference that made even at the time. So that was a different deal there. Goodness me, overheating this thing a bit. So let's see. All right, let me get the Xfinity Series results and we'll jump into that. And we're going to start right off with the big elephant in the room. A big congratulations to Landon Castle and to Shepherd Racing Ventures for their fantastic run on Saturday. Had to be the feel-good story of the race. It's unfortunate that it pretty much got no coverage during the NBC broadcast, at least not during the main broadcast. But a great story during that whole thing. One thing I have to really think about is, of course, when we were covering the ISM Raceway last week, and even further back when we were at Darlington, Shepherd's struggles and the struggles of that team are something that we've ended up kind of capturing this year. He was going to be running the throwback scheme at Darlington, honoring Shepherd's first ever Cup Series victory at Martinsville in 1981. He was actually debuted at Bristol, but he failed to qualify there. Did qualify at Darlington, but Shepherd himself was suffering from a bronchial infection. Had to pull the car into the garage, although talking with the PR person, apparently there were mechanical issues as well that were forcing him to pit road, that were costing him several laps. And then ultimately the driver illness pretty much put them over the top and they just pulled out of the race. Shepherd politely declined an interview at the time there. Clearly they were looking just to recuperate and recover. And from there, during this same season, of course, we've seen Landon Castle drive the car a lot more this year. And during that time, actually qualify the car quite well. As was mentioned in the interview that we did on the ISM Raceway last week, Castle actually got his start in the Cup Series when he progressed from being an Xfinity development driver for Hendrick Motorsports and then driving for other small teams along the way. His bread and butter in the Cup Series was getting small teams into the race and really being what was then called a go or go homer. Now we talk about, chartered teams and open teams and all that, but teams that really had to qualify the car on speed. Castle was outstanding at that. I remember doing the starting grids those years ago and tracking his progress through driving for Larry Gunselman or driving for these other teams at the back of the field, even Phoenix Racing. I mean, James Finch's team was certainly not a new organization, but was one that was struggling for sponsorship, and they were really having difficulties there. And just getting these cars in the show and proving his worth at getting in there. And even if the team didn't have enough resources to run along the entire race or not run, much better than maybe like a 20th place run, still getting a good showing out there. And ultimately that's paid off for him because Starcom Racing came around and then brought him on board to drive the number 00. And he hasn't forgotten his roots. He still drives for Johnny Davis here and there. And I'm sure that was one of the reasons that Shepherd tabbed him to drive the number 89 at Homestead last year. I was really interested to kind of try to figure out what brought it about where it was him specifically out of the other drivers that were available that weekend. Certainly for triple championship weekend there at Homestead, you pretty much have your pick of just about anybody in the garage area. I imagine a cup driver would be of of good quality there, but perhaps there was an issue with contracts or anything like that. I mean, you're not going to get like a Kyle Busch or Martin Truex or anything like that, and not disparaging against Castle. I mean, again, quite the opposite. He's excelled at being a great qualifier and getting these small teams into the show. If anything, that was probably the reason that Shepard did actually come to Castle, although I wasn't able to get that confirmed from Shepard himself. The time I had interviewed him, interviewed Shepard himself very briefly at Phoenix. I was first checking on how he was doing. He expressed that he was feeling a lot better. He was clearly moving around just fine. He was helping out the crew and everything, climbing on top of the pit box. He was definitely getting around, just as well as he had the previous time I'd seen him back in 2017. And he did mention at the time that they were working on something for Homestead. Again, I didn't do any reports on that because one thing you may notice about like the coverage that we usually do is I don't like going into a lot of the silly season or sponsorship rumors or that kind of thing like that. Because I think for a lot of these small teams, it's a bigger risk because I think it's hanging more on a thread there. And maybe, I don't know if this was a situation where, the sponsor wanted it, known that they were working on it or something like that. But, but then again, I mean, if that were a concern, I don't think Shepard would have said anything about it either, but he did mention something about it. I didn't publicize it or anything at the time there, but, when the news finally did break earlier this week, that the couple that had been sponsoring the number 89 was going to have an increased presence on the car there and actually fund their tire bill at Homestead. I mean, certainly that was a great break of news, and learning that they were going to run the full race. We'd seen Castle qualify the car again just as well as he had, if not better, than back in 2010 and all his efforts with Gunselman and all those teams. Certainly turning the corner this time around. And getting the full backing was a big difference. And I want to make sure I get their name correctly. It was Dale and Sandra Dietrich were the ones that were coming on board there for the number 89. And actually, if you look at the paint scheme that was run at Homestead, the Dietrichs originally had their name already on the car and have actually been on a number of other Shepard cars. I'm not sure how far back, but at least the last couple of years when he was running the black and silver car a few years ago. Shepard's Xfinity Series team basically progressed since 2007 when he was running the 89, when it was really a transition from going back from the Cup Series when he'd run the 89 this last couple of years in Cup competition to bringing that same program to the Xfinity Series instead. But in that same time period, looks like the Dietrichs have been one of their longtime supporters, and it had an increased investment there at Homestead and got the tires for the car. But a great run for Landon Castle from beginning to end. A great qualifying run for the number 89. Great finish for them. Stayed on the lead lap until practically the end of the race. I mean, they didn't get actually lapped on the track until about 31 laps to go. And running about as high as 13th, if not on the edge of getting into the top 10. I know there were times that pit sequence was kind of scrambled up there a little bit, and they may have been in the top 10 for a brief moment there. But certainly a great performance for him there, coming home with the car in one piece. Didn't even seem scratched up that much either, given a lot of other teams, even the top teams. You mentioned Cole Custer having his issues in the 00 there, scraping the outside wall. Great job by Castle and the team and getting that performance there. I would have loved to be there to certainly cover that, but I'm very thankful for the folks that were there covering it. There were people over at frontstretch.com and others that were in the garage area and so many other people that were sending pictures as well. I know I'm going to forget some if I start listing them off, but for those of you who did, I really appreciate all the coverage on that and getting that information. I'm thinking about doing a standalone article on the Shepard run separate from the Xfinity article on the last place finish for Ray Black Jr. I think there's enough material in there that would probably be better as a standalone piece. So we'll see what happens on that. We're going to be working on that. The Truck Series article is pretty much done. The Xfinity one is almost there as well. And probably do something like that with the Shepard deal. Cup article, we're going to kind of get going on that, obviously, after we hear from the results from inspection tonight. But again, great run for Castle, great run for Shepard's team. I can't say too much. I can't say enough about that, really, quite honestly. Um, really interested in how that team has progressed. And again, looking at the statistics there, and the fact that prior to that 15th place finish, which is what Shepard was hoping for. I mean, there was another person who was tweeting me and saying that Morgan was looking to get a top 15 finish in that race, and then they finished like right on the button there. There's only 2 other times since 2007 that team has actually finished better than that. And the most recent of those was 2009 at Las Vegas. So a whole decade there. I mean, the time gaps here are incredible to me. I mean, these are the kind of statistics that are always fascinating to me, that it's been more than 10 years since they finished that well, that it's been, I mean, since 2013 that they've even finished a race under power. That they've had all these, DNFs, most recently the one in Phoenix there again. And when you're on the margins there, is something as simple as a flat tire when you don't have any other tires in the garage and the pit stall, that could be enough to take you out. So, I mean, it's definitely a whole complete role reversal there, and all of it with just one car. I mean, you remember last year, Shepard was actually involved in a very hard accident in Texas during practice, and he had to get sent to a backup JD Motorsports car. And the Johnny Davis team actually helped him prepare the car that he then ran at Phoenix. I'm not sure if he still has that car or if that car got rebuilt to the one he has now. It's hard to keep track of such things. I'd love to actually check out his shop one of these days. I know I've seen pictures of it online and mentions of it in the articles of the past, since he's been working out of that same garage for so long as he has, himself and his wife, Cindy. It's again, I mean, that was a great story. I really wish the broadcast team would have covered it a lot better, like they did with Joe Nemechek, who had his own day in the sun there as well. Again, big congratulations to Joe for breaking the record of the most starts in NASCAR's top 3 series, beating Richard Petty's mark of 1,185, if you include his did not start at Beltsville back in the 60s. It was then matched at Phoenix when we were there, and then it was eclipsed over at the Truck Series race at Homestead this past Friday. I thought the Fox Sports 1 group, as much as I have very much disliked their rather casual and kind of cavalier approach to broadcasting and all that, I've already said plenty on that. I thought that they did a fantastic job featuring Joe and having, John Hunter was there. And then, of course, Joe's mother was there, Martha, wearing the John Nemechek shirt. I thought that was just really cool. So kudos to Fox Sports 1. I'll give credit where credit is due. I thought that was a really cool segment there. They had Hermie Sadler down there interviewing him. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out in the Truck Series pre-race. I thought that was a really good job on that. And of course, that ended up actually tying into the video too, although I didn't anticipate that at the time. Since the opening of 3 Before February, we talk about Joe Nemechek's first win at New Hampshire in 1999, and it's unreal looking at that when you see he's holding John Hunter, and when he's no more than like 5 or 6 years old at the time, and then they're standing next to each other on pit road. I mean, that's the families are what drive the sport, and then those are the stories that make things really interesting there. They say Hermie Sadler's not returning to broadcasting. That would be a shame. Again, he's done a great job out there. He's been a very personable personality there. Spoke to him very briefly at Most Sport this year. He had his game face on, so I kind of stayed out of his way. But certainly his history in as being a part-timer in the Cup Series and his efforts with the Virginia Lottery and all that. Hopefully that's not true. Hopefully he comes back. That would be good to see. And if he doesn't come back, hopefully he still stays involved in the sport in some other way that I think would be great. So let's see. I want to get the rest of. Okay, I haven't even opened the Xfinity results. So the other story from the Xfinity race that I want to talk about, also I'm sure didn't get much coverage, was the fantastic debut for Sam Hunt Racing, the team that had Brian Keselowski atop the pit box. They put together a Toyota Supra over the summer. I thought it had something to do with the Circuit City team that collapsed and all that, because it seemed like they sprung up about the same time as the H2 Motorsports team kind of disappeared. I don't know if there's a correlation on that, but hopefully we'll get some more information on that as they attempt some more races. But apparently Colin Garrett, the K&N driver that was driving the number 26, had never seen the Homestead track before. This team had never been running in an Xfinity race before. And what do? They qualify in the 15th spot. and they finished 21st. Now, they did scrape up the car quite a bit there at the end, but hey, I mean, Rubbin's racing. So great run for them in the 21st spot there, beating a lot of different, teams that are competing in different times here. A lot of programs there further down the lineup. We did have a fair number of teams that were exiting the race earlier on with mechanical issues or perhaps start and park efforts as well. But in spite of that, there were still 29 cars that finished the race under power. That's no small accomplishment to beat any number of those 29. So, great run by the Hunt team, and we'll be interested to see what they do next season. If they continue as a part-time operation or if they expand into a full-time deal. It seems like the Xfinity Series team lineup is going to be an interesting storyline to follow. We'll be doing kind of like what we did last year, where we kind of have an evolving entry list storylines that we'll post by February in Daytona of just all the weird little news items that come up about who's going where. There's been so much of this this week already, like talking about Suarez and Custer and everything else in between. But a great run for them. Brandon Brown finishing 13th. I think that's the best run for the second the Brandon Built entry. Indeed, it is. The previous best was 17th on the Roval when Brown was spun out, I believe, on the last lap and cost himself some spots. But a great run for him. I know Brown has had a lot of good runs this year and runs even better than that, the number 86. But good to see the second team picking things back up for him too. BJ McLeod had a great qualifying run. We mentioned him in the last car context, but in the Xfinity Series side, a 12th place qualifying run for Johnny Davis is a fantastic run for them. End up finishing in the 20th position. Let's look at the rest of the lineup. Mentioning Joe Nemechek earlier, again, the number 74 car, a big thank you again to the folks at Mike Harmon Racing for getting my name on there. And last car, it's listed as last car Brock Beard. On the left side of the hood of the number 74 car, there's pictures of it on Twitter. If you check out at MHR Racing on Twitter, there's some great pictures of that online. Really didn't expect that. I jumped on board there for their deal at Phoenix to get the name on the trunk lid. They went way above and beyond after the oil line came loose when Nemechek was driving the 74. They went to a backup and they hand wrote all the names, including mine, on the deck lid of the backup and put that back out there. And then to follow that up by doing a hood sponsor deal at Homestead, very unexpected and very pleased. So, and certainly we always like to support these small teams and efforts along the way as best we can. So that's a big deal on that. So again, big thanks to Mike Harmon's team and best of luck to them as they enter the next season as well. It was good to see the 17 that was basically a Mike Harmon partner car. That's overseen, even though it's listed under Rick Ware Racing, it's been really overseen and operated by Mike Harmon Racing this season. Good to see Robbie Lyons run that car for pretty much the entire race, finishing on the same lap as Nemechek, the 28th spot. Joey Gase did a great promotion there with all the sponsors they've had this year and all the different branches of the Donate Life organization that have been on the number 35 this year. So that was good to see. Ends up finishing in the 27th spot. Let's see. Jimmy Means picked up some last-minute sponsorship from American Rebel on the number 52. Ends up getting a 23rd place finish to round out the season. But at the end of the day, the champion there for the last car side of things was Ray Black Jr., who had a spectacular engine failure down the front straightaway. Received several great pictures of that online there. So thank you everyone who contributed on that. We're in the process of finishing that article up there and hopefully have that for you later tonight. An unfortunate deal for Black, who apparently that same day it had already been announced that he was going to be driving for SS Greenlight Racing again next year, and that they even had another sponsor on hand. I mean, these things happen in racing, so I'm sure the sponsor and the team understand that. But hopefully things will turn around better for them this year, especially. And it also can't be overlooked how well that team has performed this year, particularly his teammate Greg Alding in the number 08. Should have won Talladega back in the spring, had some other great runs there this year. That was really kind of a big subject of some of our earlier shows this year when both he and Brandon Brown were having a streak of top 20 finishes. And yeah, some are questioning how competitive the fields are because we've had some cup operations that have pulled out of the Xfinity Series. But I say, look, you still got to go out there and beat these guys, and you got to do the best run that you can. And it's not like positions 19 to the back are all start and park teams that are out after 5 laps. I mean, these are teams that are still running out there. And as we saw with the number 38 car in the Xfinity Series, there are teams that are actually pulling out of the race, but when somebody falls out, they'll just cancel and come right back out. Yaley was in a position to finish in the 37th spot, pulling into the garage area under the Ray Black caution. But when the 15 car hit into the outside wall with a very hard accident there, the Johnny Davis machine, 38 pulled back out on the track and ended up passing Matthews. Matthews wrecked car by 6 laps before finally falling out of the race with suspension issues. One unfortunate deal there in the bottom 5. We mentioned Timmy Hill not being able to run the whole race because the tires were reserved for the Cup Series car. Chad Fincham, his teammate in the number 61, was looking for another good run after having one of his career best runs over at Texas a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, the engine let go. He ends up in the 35th position, included in the bottom 5. But at the top of the field there, Tyler Reddick ends up being your Xfinity Series champion. Pulls off a great run there. Really competitive battle there amongst all the top 4 drivers. I know the results show one thing, but the race showed something very different, that you had a very competitive group there, particularly among the big 3 there between Bell, Custer, and Reddick. I think that for all the changes that we've had in the Cup Series and for all the concerns, perhaps, because we've had the NASCAR's Cup Series has had a long history of people excelling in the Busch Series and then struggling in Cup. I think this particular group is going to be really interesting to see. So be very curious to see what Reddick does with Childress next year, what Custer does with Stuart Haas, and of course, Christopher Bell and the Levine family racing entry, which is partnered with Joe Gibbs. Any guesses as to which one of those will be winning first? I think that'll be an interesting storyline to follow next year. Certainly a strong rookie class, and future should be in good hands on that. And what's going to be left behind in the Xfinity Series? Again, if those guys are going to be committing more fully to the Cup Series, how many more opportunities could be open for a driver like a Chase Briscoe, like a Jeb Burton, like a Ryan Sieg? Like any of these drivers that we've followed in the past that we've talked about how well they've done this year. Ryan Sieg, Brandon Brown, Greg Alding, Alex Labay, all these other competitors that have been getting closer and closer to the front because the field has kind of restructured itself. And of course, now we're going to have 36 cars instead of 38 cars. So you got that whole deal. It's lit a fire under some of these organizations, and they're starting to really kind of make their names known. And it's no longer really considered an upset when one of these guys are actually being competitive. We've talked about that earlier this year about Ryan Sieg. It's no longer really, I don't really talk that much about where he was running. In this case, he was 12th there at Homestead. But often he's run much better than that even. And it's no longer, which is a good thing. You want to get to that point there where it's now expected that you are now competitive, that you're now a factor in these finishes and competing for even better finishes yet. It's a ladder. People are on different rungs and different steps and trying to get up there. But it'll be interesting to see which teams are left over, if we have any startup teams coming in, and which ones are going to still be making the cut. But again, I want to reemphasize again, fantastic run for the Shepherd Racing Ventures deal. I hope that lands them some sponsorship, at least some decent funding going into the offseason, that they could continue to build their organization, perhaps get an additional car or whatever they need to get that program rolling and moving forward on that. But that's going to be an interesting story. And it all begins again at Daytona, where Landon Castle had another great run driving for Phoenix Racing in the Xfinity Series, was the pusher there behind Tony Stewart at the finish there, and ended up being a factor in the finish. So you never know. There's a lot of time between now and then. A lot of things got to happen, but it's going to be interesting to see as things move ahead on all those fronts. All right. So, let's take a look here at the Truck Series. We're going to jump into that as well. And hang on. So, of course, Austin Hill taking the victory. But at the same time, the Truck Series last place finisher, Anthony Alfredo, with some very early misfortune in the race. It was interesting that you have the Cup Series race almost go the entire distance before Kyle Larson's engine failure. But of course, on the Truck Series side, it was very much the opposite. And also like the Xfinity Series, only 4 laps in before the issue with Ray Black Jr. on the Xfinity side. And during the pace laps, apparently Anthony Alfredo's engine already sounds sour, had a bad vibration. pulled down pit road, had a big oil leak coming out the bottom of the truck, pushed the truck behind the wall, and they were done for the day. One thing that, even the team was already saying they were already out of the race. But one thing that's still interesting to me is what lap NASCAR actually declares a team out of it. I like to really listen to the officials channel and get like the actual moment that they do. This one was particularly interesting because they're actually waiting towards the end of a stage. There was the garage reporter came in about 4 or 5 laps short of, I believe it was the first stage, was trying to report about what, the 15 truck being out of the race. But he was told to hold that report until after the caution came out. And then at that point said that the 15 was out of the race at that point. Ray Cicerelli in the 31st spot. Unfortunate that he couldn't have a good run there to round things out in a year that he had one of his great runs at Michigan. But ends up out with a broken oil line there in turn 4. And it took him out of the race. Josh Bilicki in the number 33. There was a tweet earlier this week that they're looking to put a new body on that truck there. That's been kind of their workman like entry there in the number 33. They didn't end up entering their second truck, the number 34, which is unfortunate because that one had a thank you message to NASCAR's Reddit group on the rear tailgate. That truck ends up not starting the race, and Rial moves from that 34 into the number 33. Angela Ruck was very off the pace at the beginning laps. Looked like she was losing a lot of laps there. Ends up finishing in the 29th spot. And Jennifer Jo Cobb rounds out the bottom 5 of the Waldo's Painting Chevrolet. Another team very much like the Rial brothers and even Morgan Shepherd's team, looking to kind of rebuild their fleet and get things going. I know that Cobb was, again, struggling with that, especially back over at Mosport, where they were down to basically their last couple of trucks. And their second truck that Cicerelli drove over at Mosport ended up having even more significant wiring issues at Martinsville that prevented it from even starting the race. That was another feature that we did on Last Car earlier this year. So hopefully this time will, of course, allow them to kind of regroup and get things back to where they want to operate. Let's take another look here. Tyler Hill in the 23rd spot for the Hill Motorsports team. Looking at other teams out there. Great to hear about Jesse Little and the fact that Truck Series team is not going to be closing its doors. They did get an investor that was already having his company on the number 97 this past week, the Diversified Utility Group Ford, number 97, rebounding from their DNQ. Of course, this time around qualifying was washed out, but still their owner points from how they performed this year were their cushion that allowed them to take the 32nd and final starting spot, finishing in the 17th position there, one spot behind Tanner Gray, the number 7. Joe Nemechek, again, we mentioned him earlier, breaking Richard Petty's record there in the Truck Series racing. He finishes in the 14th spot. He gets in after Camden Murphy, his teammate, doesn't qualify, again, bumped out by the raindrops there. So an unfortunate deal there. So the run that we saw, the number 87, have the last place finish with Nemechek back at Phoenix turned out to be the last start of the year for the number 87. They clinched the second consecutive Last Car Truck Series championship for this year. Ross Chastain falls just short of the championship. The Mellon Band Challenge was a great story to follow this year. Really gave it his all and, just trying to get something going there. Led 36 laps of the race, but ultimately didn't have anything for the top couple of drivers there. Austin Hill taking the checkered flag, showing that his win back at Daytona was certainly no fluke, and nor was his progression through the playoffs here this way. But Matt Crafton locking up another Truck Series championship. The Frank Kimmel of the Truck Series still having one of the most incredible bits of longevity there in any of the series. We mentioned Morgan Shepherd in the Xfinity Series and Joe Nemechek and everything. Crafton belongs right in that group as well. Most unconventional way, certainly. I know there's been a lot of controversy over that. You certainly would hope that a driver that didn't win anything during the season would be able to win the championship. But at the end of the day, you jump through the hoops and you do it, the best that you can. You do the same steps that anybody else is doing out there. And he did all the steps and he did what he had to do and he got it done. Just led 9 laps. And I almost thought for a second he didn't even lead a lap. That would have been pretty amazing too. But very different deal there for Crafton, but pulls off the championship there for 2019. So a good deal for him. But yeah, very interesting selection of races there, I'd have to say, between all the top 3 divisions. I think we had kind of a deal with Xfinity Series race seemed to actually be kind of the most competitive there of the three. The Cup Series race had similar kind of long green flag runs that we saw on the Truck Series side, but that was a different situation on that. Alfredo sauce all over the pit box, yeah, pretty much. Has he reeled in the sponsorship for the Olive Garden? I know he was joking about that, but I was thinking that would be something interesting to see. But yeah. Least laps led by a champ ever, beating Crafton. My goodness. See, I mean, it's interesting history. I guess not all history is equally impressive. It could be kind of a different deal there. Let's see. Hey there. I see Trucker Jonathan. Welcome aboard on the group here. I saw your comment there. You're new here, so welcome aboard for the finale. Never too late to join the disqualification show as we wrap up the 2019 season. We'll do some trivia here, and we'll talk about the video. We're going to do that pretty soon here. Yeah, I was hoping Floyd Mayweather's team. I was hoping they'd show up there. I thought I was already kind of mentally preparing about how to write the last car article and kind of figure out the sequence of events that led to that team being discussed this year and getting out. I'm sure now that we'll probably be hearing more rumors about that team running the Daytona 500. Although, to tie in again to the beginning of the disqualification show this year, still haven't heard any news from Victor Obaika and still haven't heard any news from Jonathan Cohen at the NY Racing team, two teams that were supposed to run the Daytona 500, two teams that both had cars that were looked to be ready to go, at least cars that were presented as well, but cars that we have not seen this entire season now. And now with the final checkered flag of the year dropped, it's anybody's guess as to what we're going to see from either of those next year. I have still not heard anything on my end of what's going to be happening there, but hopefully we'll find out one way or the other if the assets ended up Floyd Mayweather's direction or somebody else's. Startup teams are always something that's fascinating to me. It always makes me wonder how people come together and start an organization and choose to compete at this high level and choose to kind of work their way up the ladder. I'm excited to hear about the potential of that. It looks like we're already seeing a lot of that in the Xfinity series, like I mentioned, but hopefully we'll be seeing some of that in the Cup series as well to keep things as competitive as they can be with the restraints of the charter system for sure. Let's see. And so yeah, okay. Well, we're gonna move on into the discussion about 3 before February here pretty soon. Yeah, let's see here. 9 to 9:30 might be the call. Okay, that's all right. So we'll play it by ear here. We'll do the trivia. We'll do like a lot of stuff about that in here in a bit. Oh yes, and I got some visual aids here to show off here as well, and we'll get this rolling. Didn't finish last. There you go. Yeah, I mean it's yeah, I mean a heck of a season. I mean, my goodness. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of controversy. I know the aero package is definitely a big issue. I think, and I still think the heat exhaustion issue is one of the smoking guns that NASCAR needs to keep a very close eye on. And hey, Rick Crawford in the chat, the real Rick Crawford, or hey, goodness. All right, well, one way or the other, welcome aboard. Let's see. Yeah, okay. But the an interesting deal there with the whole situation with the aero package there. I think certainly back at Sears Point, I was very struck by the issue of the extreme cabin heat and the exhaustion levels that these drivers are facing nowadays. I mean, certainly it played in the hands of some of these drivers that were perhaps even more exceptionally well fit than the others, like your Matt DiBenedettos or your Jimmy Johnsons or stuff like that. But at the same time, potentially a really serious issue there. I think that does need to be treated a bit more seriously. And related to that, of course, has to be the problem there with the actual aerodynamic dependency of all these teams nowadays. Now, It was really surprising at Sears Point to hear how aero dependent that track had become, especially when they were bringing back the carousel and making the track tighter and slower than it had been since they last ran it in 1997. So it was very unusual to have that whole deal shake out like that. And certainly after a race like this today, seeing how competitive the Xfinity race was yesterday, and then how relatively calm the Cup Series race was, and how quickly people were getting lapped along the way, it's definitely, I think, a worthy concern that NASCAR is looking at potentially altering the package, at least for the short tracks and road courses. I haven't heard anything firm beyond what everybody else has been hearing on that, but I know the "we like what we're seeing" quote is getting thrown around an awful lot. So you certainly hope that things kind of turn around. Okay, I see the Rick Crawford channel is having a lot of fun there. I figured it was. I'm not saying anything just in case. I try to I try to play it calm just in case. Remember, we have a lot of young viewers out there. We try to keep things very family friendly here, so just keep that in mind, Rick Crawford fan. I'm keeping an eye on you. All right, but um, yeah, a really interesting season. I mean, I know at times frustrating for sure. There were some races that the aero package seemed to really be playing a really good factor into the finish. I remember Atlanta being really competitive and feeling kind of like an old school Atlanta race. But then other tracks, you have these long green flag runs and people just not able to do anything, and drafting up at weird times. And then you have other instances at road courses like at Watkins Glen, where Truex is following Chase Elliott, just cannot get around him, or at Sears Point, where Kyle Busch just can't catch his teammate. You can say that it's just one team or one driver that has an exceptional run, but also the aero factor is definitely making things more difficult, I would believe, than usual. And certainly, again, as you've followed in this year with these last place finish battles, there's been some cases here more often than not that the battle at the back of the field has actually been much more competitive than that at the front. Other times it hasn't. Other times it's been settled very, very quickly. But especially on the Cup Series side, if you just look at the list of the drivers that we've had finishing last this year, certainly the ones that were in contention for the championship, yeah, I mean, it's a good cross section of just, it's the big teams, the small teams, it's everybody. Between Jimmy Johnson, Austin Dillon, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kyle Larson, Kevin Harvick, Ryan Newman, Kurt Busch, all those drivers there on one hand. And then, of course, you have your others, your BJ McLeods, your Daniel Hemricks. Ooh. Ooh. Excuse me. Allergy season is back at NASCAR headquarters. I apologize. I don't want to sneeze in the mic. I don't want to. I've had put a headphone warning into the video here. But it's. I think this is definitely going to have to be a year I have to chew on a lot more. I was very much concerned. I know there was some comments here about that too, about the strange tone of the Victory Lane celebrations. I don't remember it ever being quite that quiet when somebody won a championship. And Kyle didn't seem, I mean, I get it. I mean, I'm reluctant to go too far down that road, because I remember that was the same concern that Jimmy Johnson had, and Chad Knaus was saying at one point, it's like, look, why do we have to, jump up and down and be like all crazy all the time? Look, we can just be very businesslike and do what we do. But it almost seemed like they were like, yeah, it was so toned down, though. It was distracting. That the race ended, and of course this brought out the foibles of the broadcasting group, which was unfortunate. Much continuing that theme this year. They seem like they're really struggling to fill the air. Now, okay, I guess there's a lot of challenges to that. Maybe they had a lot of notes for one scenario and not another, but that's what you're paid to do. Like, find a way to just do it. I mean, it was just so awkward to watch there, and I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, I certainly hope there's nothing, that Kyle's dealing with that we're not hearing about or anything like that. But it had that feel to it. Even when it was cool when he put his kid in the car and everything like that. I thought he made a great photo op and everything, but it's still kind of distracting me now. Just how bizarre the tone was. It seemed like when Stewart won, or Keselowski, or Even last year with Logano, it was much more jubilant. But yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll see where all that shakes out. So let's see. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, hang on. Let's get the right window here. Starfield's going to be. Well, okay, yeah, there's some of that, but that kind of deal. But I don't know. It's again the whole rumor mill thing and all this other stuff coming out. I try to stay out of that. And that actually that's kind of a good transition to kind of another thing I want to kind of talk about. The trackside approach over here at LastCar and kind of what we've been doing there this year. Again, I want a big thanks to everybody that's been supporting the website, especially supporting the videos and supporting the Patreon there. If you're unable to join the Patreon, sharing our videos is the next best way to help support us there, because that's get the videos out there and make sure that they get seen and everything like that. I was very happy with covering the races that we were able to do this year. We started back at the Sonoma Raceway. We did Most Sport and then drove down to Darlington, had a great road trip on that, and then closed out this year with race at Phoenix just last week. It was a really interesting different deal there to really cover all those events, and we're certainly looking to do more of that next year as well. What we're already kind of working on our 2020 plans. We'd like to do some more of the West Coast races. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do Texas this year, so that's one we're already looking at for next year. I really like to make sure we take them up on the hospitality we weren't able to take advantage of this year. Sears Point, of course, is another one that we're keeping on the schedule, and we're certainly looking at doing Phoenix next year for the championship race if they'll have us. We were certainly very happy to be covering the event the last couple of years, and we'd be happy to jump in there. I know it's going to be very competitive to get into that race this time around. It always is a great venue, but that's going to be interesting deal on all of that. Yeah, I mean, the big thing, the big thing that was a challenge this whole season there was just trying to find the right routine there for the races, and kind of looking at what kind of our approach is at the track. Big thing I like to do whenever I get over to the track there and do that is the first thing I like to do when I get there is just get pictures of as many of the teams and the cars as possible. Any paint schemes, especially the smaller teams, and get all that out there. And I'm very big at kind of doing just the at the track stuff and just kind of observing little details that just don't get talked about that much, or interviewing people that I think aren't going to get talked about that much. That's kind of my focus. But there's other things that it's a real challenge to kind of juggle that, because especially at Phoenix this year, I was disappointed that I didn't keep up with the story on JJ Yaley's window net on the driver's side there in qualifying, because what happens usually is it's very challenging to figure out time that you would actually sit there and actually watch a segment versus running around and doing this and doing that and doing all that stuff. I like doing a lot of running around. I haven't counted my steps at these, but I imagine it's quite a bit, because my legs feel like rubber every time I get back from one of these deals there. But I guess what I'm saying here is that, again, looking forward on this, don't be shy to ask me about, things that you want me to cover, or stories you want me to cover, or things that you want me to pay attention to. I know that there were some Twitter users that were mentioning making sure to check out the pit boxes there and seeing which teams didn't have tires. I'm glad I got the reminder on that, because they gave me just enough time to go out there and do that. So that's really a big, that's really a big deal there, and just trying to go out there and cover that as best I can. But if you ever have any suggestions on stories you want us to cover, or things we need to take a look at, I'm certainly always open to that. And I again, I really appreciate any input you guys have on that, and really to the overall approach there too. Again, our focus is certainly on the last place finishers of the races, and certainly the small teams that don't get talked about, and the drivers and everything like that. But there's a lot of flexibility in that, and I really want to make sure that we're covering this the very best I can. I always find whenever we get back from one of these races that I always start thinking about the stuff that I didn't cover first, and then the stuff rather than what we actually did get done. I guess that happens in any profession. But hopefully, planning on narrowing that gap as closely as possible there. I think the biggest thing is just covering these triple header weekends. I'm trying to get more practice with that because that's just so many different entries to juggle and so many different people. And then of course they threw in the K&N race at Phoenix this time around. So I think during a lot of qualifying, I was playing catch up there in the K&N garage, just trying to catch up on what was going on with those teams. But certainly looking to do much more of it there, and finding a good grounding in what we do. I think the most important thing is to maintain a consistent level of quality in what we do, and make sure that what we're providing is stuff that you guys actually are interested in. I don't want to provide. I don't want to be looking the same direction as everybody else there. But one thing you may notice, for example, in the Xfinity, the Cup Series race at Phoenix, you'll notice we didn't have any quotes from Chase Elliott there, even though he was the last place finisher. One thing that I tend to kind of shy away from in a lot of what we do is if the last place finisher is a big team, there's going to be a ton of media there, and they're pretty much going to just be asking all the questions that anybody is going to be asking. It would be the same thing as if it was like Dale Jr. before he retired, or Jeff Gordon, or I guess nowadays like a Jimmy Johnson or something like that. That's a whole different deal there. So my focus, at least during when that happened, is I was going to go track down the car instead and kind of look and see what was going on with that. And that ended up being kind of interesting. I mean, just kind of seeing the tow truck get lost in the Xfinity Series garage and then pulling the car back around again. And that turned out to actually I think that turned out to be a good decision, because certainly once the car got pulled into the garage, they weren't letting anybody near it. So that was about as close as anybody was going to be able to get to the car if you weren't actually a track worker. And I figured there'd be some benefit in that. So that's kind of more my approach to kind of, doing things at the track there. If that becomes something that's a little bit too, distracting or anything, that's certainly something that I definitely want to make sure you guys let me know on there, because I want to make sure that I always approach these things as like, okay, I'm gonna see what's interesting to me, and then hopefully what interests me is going to be interesting to other people. But that's not always the best guidepost on there too. So yeah, if there's something I'm missing or something I need to be paying attention to, like I'll head right out there and do that too. So I know Jeff Gluck always talks about his patrons as being his bosses, and I think that's actually kind of a fit comparison there. Certainly people should get their money worth for sure. So that's kind of a big thing on that. I don't remember how I got sidetracked on that, but that's I wanted to address that certainly going into the off season there, the kind of especially as we look towards next year and what exactly we want to be doing at these races and what kind of coverage we want to be providing, in addition to what we're already doing, covering the last place finishers there. And of course, that's the other side of all that. If you have a driver that falls out of the race and it's a team that doesn't get talked about that much, well, I'm going to make sure we talk to that person. Like we had with Timmy Hill last year at Phoenix, Tommy Joe Martins in the Xfinity race, Watkins Glen, things like that. Those are big things to talk about. So I think we're getting close to kind of a good tone there for what we do at the coverage there at the track, and people know what to expect from us and everything. And that's what we're hoping to do a lot more of next season. So let me go ahead and transition out of that and jump into talking about, 3 before February. For those of you who have not seen it yet, I'm not going to, I guess, I don't know if it's spoiler alerts is the right term or anything like that, but I definitely do want to talk about the project there a bit for people who have had a chance to see it since it was posted just yesterday. For those of you who have seen it, I don't do a video at the end like I did in the Jerry Nadeau video, where I kind of talked about kind of what the subject matter means to me and why I decided to do the video. I tend to kind of avoid those things wherever possible. In the Nadeau one, I felt like it needed to be there, but in this video, I didn't think it was appropriate, so I left that out. So I decided instead to kind of merge that into the video here. As a lot of you have noticed, you see some of the stuff that we have out here on display, some of the stuff that I've collected over the years, representing the 3 drivers featured in 3 before February between Kenny Irwin Jr., Adam Petty, and the late Tony Roper. These different drivers that had very similar tragedies befall them during the 2000 season. But it was this was a project that I've been meaning to do for quite a while, and especially that is consistent with the theme of what I like to call the Earnhardt singularity. It's something that I talked about a couple years ago when Dale Jr. retired at Homestead. That it's, and I said this in even my video on the NASCAR in the 1990s. Like, nobody's going to disagree that Dale Earnhardt was a great driver and a great personality, and that his loss was tragic and massive in scale. But I do think that the issue with especially with the analysis of Earnhardt's last race and the way that he lost his life is really it really distracts from an unfortunate reality in the sport there, that he wasn't the only driver to die in racing. I mean, this was very much something that came up in even the J.D. McDuffie book, of course, as well, being the most recent driver to lose his life in an accident during a race. Doing this project, I originally thought about making this into a book, but I wasn't sure if anybody would actually buy it. And I also am not really interested. And my biggest concern in that aspect of my career is I don't want to be known as a person who just writes about drivers that lost their lives. I think that would be kind of a difficult path to go down there. But I did feel that this particular story was very important to go over, because I think that we are now at a point where it's been, almost 2 decades since the 2000 season happened. And we've had a whole other generation of people who were either too young to even remember it, or, their awareness of it is very limited because, you had Earnhardt and you just hear Earnhardt and all this other stuff there. So I felt it was important to tell that story in some form. And since this year has been the other big thing that's happened this year, of course, has been the video productions kind of kickstarting this channel, both between this series and the videos I've been doing with NASCAR Man, which we are working on still, and the videos on my own channel. This was a project I've had kind of in the back of my mind for a while there, and it finally started coming together this fall, which was a bit of a balancing act there on that. So this was a project I really wanted to make sure I felt needed to be done, and there's not really a best time to actually release such a story. I've known from previous examples in some postseason work I've done that you want to release NASCAR content during the NASCAR season. So I didn't want to push it any later than this weekend. So I decided to just, set it on this Saturday and do that there. But it's back in 2000, I was about 17 years old. So I remember the season pretty well. And the events that happened that year, especially when you strung it together with what happened in Jeffrey Bodine's Truck Series accident, the walkway collapse outside the Charlotte Motor Speedway after the Winston, the other examples of hung throttles that happened in other races. It's one of those things that really makes you kind of look at history in a different sense and look at that time period differently, because there's a when you're kind of going through things now. I mean, kind of talking about this season, it kind of ties in with that. What's the big thing to take out of this season? What's the big thing that kind of happened? It's like taking a whole, it's like sifting. It's like gold panning. Like the season is like a whole, pile of sand. But, if you have some, you have some years to go by, you can sift through that and say, oh, well, this was happening, and this kind of tied in with this, and this kind of tied in with this. And that was certainly what was going on in 3 before February. The 2000 season, when you look at the issues of stuck throttles, the issues of driver safety, the issues of many of those things, it seems like there was a very clear progression, that there was a clear progression that was leading into Dale Earnhardt's final lap at the 2001 Daytona 500. That is very different from the narrative that Dale Earnhardt had this accident and it completely came out of nowhere, that nobody could have anticipated, that somebody could lose their life in this way. Even Earnhardt himself, the very famous quote that he said, that that he was telling Richard Childress at one point, if they don't do something to these cars, it's going to end up killing somebody. But as I mentioned in the video, there were 81 other drivers that had died in NASCAR competition. And the most recent 3 of those were just the previous year, 1 each in the top 3 series. And that was really the genesis of this project. And again, it's not disparaging on Earnhardt or Childress or any of those people. Again, they were stuck in that very same time period too, where these things didn't seem obvious until perhaps some time had gone by and we could actually look at things that way. That's the 90-minute mark on that, but we'll wait and see on that. It looks like it's going to be much later than that. That was 90 minutes to 5 o'clock. But I think if there is any frustration or anger that was behind the project, it's really just to the confluence of events that happened that year. The fact that everything had this trajectory, and that these particular people lost their lives, and that these particular measures were taken, and that these other measures were not taken. It's much like, I grew up really studying the Titanic disaster a lot, and it's got a very similar thing. Nobody deliberately wrecked the Titanic. Nobody deliberately made sure that this ship didn't have enough lifeboats on board. But there were a whole series of small decisions. There were a whole series of things that happened along the way. Some were in people's control, some were not in people's control. And these whole things, in hindsight, it's really obvious. You can say, well, how could they do this? But you have to really consider it in the time period. And that was what I felt was going to be the most critical thing to doing a video on the subject of the 2000 season. At this point here, I really have to say that I really have to again, credit my sources on this big time. There is a full link to the video sources in a Google Docs document that is linked in the description of the video. And the articles and other sources there are also linked in there as well, including the Wayback Machine articles. But I would say, in terms of the biggest source I would have to really thank for making that project possible would be J-Ski, quite honestly. J-Ski's Silly Season site. And the fact that they still have archives dating back to when that site started in the late 90s, including the 2000 season. Having that whole section there organized chronologically and picking those things through and trying to get what articles you could get from the links that weren't there, the links that were there, and trying to dig that up was extremely helpful. That became really the skeleton of that video, of really trying to kind of start stringing things together. That's where you get really interesting stories that, and again, sifting through it again, if you look at all these pages and just kind of read the whole thing cover to cover, you think, oh, okay, well, that's just a season. And, these things happen and whatever, especially since the main J-Ski archives for that section left out a lot of the articles from Petty, Irwin, and Roper's accidents and kind of had those in a separate tribute section. So you really have to kind of take a finer tooth comb and look at these little things and say, okay, well, this moment here really was something, and this was something, and kind of connecting the dots a bit. And really placing that in a timeline, and that's really what that video ended up being. And it was a different it was an interesting experience, because there were some of those things that I did remember from the time period. I remember, just like anybody else at that time. You had these 2 accidents at the exact same track in the exact same corner with the exact same result, and then you had Tony Roper's accident happening at another track during a race. In another series, in a slightly different injury, but still against the backdrop of these other ones. And NASCAR has had a long history, and I say this in the video, but it's true, that NASCAR has had a long history of dealing with the harshest realities of its sport. And I don't say that flippantly. That was very clear from doing the J.D. McDuffie book. For those of you who have read that, there are accounts verified from multiple people, including the team members, including broadcasters that were at the track, that there was either an uncertainty from the accident that happened at Watkins Glen in 91 of what needed to be done and what could be done, or what should be done. Should it be a situation where the track gets closed down, they do a full investigation, or do they just get the team out of the track and they do it later? Is NASCAR going to do an investigation themselves? What's that investigation going to entail? What's interesting in the 2000 season is those things hadn't really changed by the 2000 season. And it's very clear from that progression. I think there's almost a sense from that chronology that there's certainly a portion of the field that would either, just just hope that it just kind of goes away. That's like, okay, well, these things happen. It's a risky sport. It's a dangerous sport. People do die. These things do happen. But what is an acceptable risk? What is an unacceptable risk? It almost becomes kind of a legal analysis, really, at the end of the day. And that's certainly the challenge with that. But it was definitely an interesting project to try to kind of figure out that way, because it was you want to understand why these things continue to happen at that same time period. And it's not to say that there weren't multiple fatalities in NASCAR before 2000. That's not true either. I mean, 1965, they had, I believe, 3 drivers die that year. In 1964, they lost Joe Weatherly and Jimmy Pardue and these other drivers back then. So Fireball Roberts, I mean, all that. It's an interesting it's an interesting thing to kind of try to pick apart. But there's how much is actually done by NASCAR to investigate these accidents and how to treat them and moving forward. It's a mindset that I think it's important to try to kind of understand. If I ever did do a book on it, that's kind of where the direction I would kind of be going is kind of the split in authority. There was a driver that I had spoken to about the subject of it when the video was coming together. His interview isn't in the video, but it kind of shed new light on it because it kind of came together as the program came together. Because there's a very different, of course, what we see as fans or media members or outsiders in general is very different from what drivers and competitors and those directly involved and influenced by the sport see themselves. To us, it could be like, oh my gosh, there's these deaths that happen. It's horrible. They need to do this. They need to do that. They need to do this. But the driver I spoke to said, look, the risk of the sport is part of it. It's part of the allure that these drivers want to, compete in. It's not saying that they're reckless. It's not saying that they do it just because it's dangerous, but they know that that's part of it, that there's that element in there. And so I had phrased the question, asking if this was something that, the driver was thinking about, if this was something that was on his mind, if this was something that he was concerned about that season. And he kind of went around it a bit there, but he was answering it and said basically that no, it wasn't, that in his mind, racing was just this way. And you would hope that it would certainly not happen. You would certainly be sad for the people that you would lose along the way, but you accepted it as one kind of as one form of risk. But again, I think that's kind of the difficulty, and perhaps that was a role in what was going on during that season and why the steps were taken in the way they were taken. Why you had a lot of outcry from media members and fans and wondering what's going on and what needs to be done, perhaps, and then a resistance, perhaps not a full-on revolt, but these drivers and competitors saying, well, look, like, okay, let's try to figure out what's going on here. And then there's a kind of a split between even some of the drivers. You'll see it in the video itself. There's some drivers that are just saying like they don't want to think about it, or they're dismissing it as just part of dismissing it as part of the game, versus other drivers that are outwardly concerned. There's an interview with Darrell Waltrip that's put in the video in its entirety, really, the one that was clipped from the TNN broadcast, I believe, from the July race there in 2000, that really kind of captures that time period there. And it's hard as an outsider to really understand that conflict. I'm certainly hopeful that maybe further along, something a more comprehensive analysis of that time period can be understood. But I think the biggest thing in doing that project was really talking about, it was mentioned in the comments, and I mentioned in the video as well, that the 2001 500 wasn't an isolated event, and it wasn't the end all be all of safety, and it wasn't that this happened and then suddenly the sport just instantly made everything better. Well, a lot of times history can be described in such a way that it's simple, black and white, that if X, then Y. We started here, we did this, and now we're here, and now we have this reverence for the present, where it's like, okay, well, nowadays, we've had all these other things happen, we've learned from them. We did, and now we do this, and we don't do that, we do this, we don't do that, and we do this, but we don't acknowledge the imperfection of the now. We don't acknowledge that there could be real problems out there, real mistakes, and have real serious consequences as well. And again, it's not to condemn people or anything like that, but it is to understand it. It is to give an honest depiction of a time period that, maybe NASCAR would rather just not think about, which is why you don't see any reference to it in the Hall of Fame, and why it's always couched in the terms of Dale Earnhardt, because it's just more palatable. And that's just the way that it's expressed. But it's a really important story that I think had to be told, and I hope that comes across in the video there, because and I think actually the video is probably the better way to describe that story, because I mean, describing the accounts of these drivers and everything is one thing, but to see the actual expressions, I mean, again, when you see, like, the way Darrell Waltrip looks, or the way Mike Helton looks, and these other people and stuff, and you could see how clearly conflicted they are about these, and the testing of kind of the old kind of machismo in the sport, and also at the same time you have kind of this scientific kind of questioning of the safety of the sport, very similar actually to kind of the CTE crisis in football, and the conflict between those two, and the efforts made to try and make a sport that's inherently dangerous safer, and what the consequence of that is, and how much what is lost and what is gained, and what risk is still there. There's a lot of questions that really can be addressed from that. So that's really a big thing that I want to kind of tie in there, and do all that. But it was a really interesting project. Oh, let me get adjusted here. Really interesting project, and on top of all of that, it's a deal. And you're right, yeah, RKD, you're right. CTE isn't just a football thing, although it's been talked about more in the football context with the regular impacts. But of course, yeah, I mean, you only have to look as far as Dale Jr. and well, shoot, Jerry Nadeau. He's another competitors in motorsports having similar issues and dealing with such things there. But certainly in terms of, like, what a sanctioning body does and does not do when they're confronted with a risk or a situation that can potentially, either threaten or at least call into question, the nature of the activity itself. It's like, is this acceptable? Is this allowable? And, but then of course, I didn't also wanted to make it specifically scientific and just disinterested. The original draft of it was literally just a timeline, but I didn't want it to be that either. And that's where really the driver profile aspect of it is, and to really understand who Adam Petty was, who Kenny Irwin Jr. was, and who Tony Roper was. And I took particular pains with the Tony Roper aspect of it there, because I felt that was the most overlooked. Certainly, even at the time there, I don't really remember much about the Tony Roper situation. I've always followed the Cup Series more than the other series there, even now. But Adam Petty and Kenny Irwin's things certainly stood out in my mind much more than what happened with Tony Roper's accident in the Truck Series race. I think that there could also be said that the mind can only deal with so many tragedies and so many stories there at the time. I think there's a tendency to shrink away from that, or at least to rationalize it in a way, and just like say, okay, well, look, these are things that happen. They're going to work on it. They're going to make things better. But much like with the Titanic and the ice warnings received and sailing full speed into the ice field, that was the off season of 2000 to 2001, and it wasn't just a Larry Woody of the Tennessean. I mean, there's clips from Ed Hinton's articles posted in there, and other people that were very apprehensive going into that 2001 Daytona 500. And it's not to say that there weren't some very serious, some very significant factors at play there. Of course, that was the first year of NASCAR's new TV contract with Fox, and that was after ESPN and TNN and stuff had been phased out of the contract and starting things new that way. That was when Dodge was coming back in. There were a lot of things that were potential distractions or things that were just stealing headlines there that were going to be the big story. And then certainly once Speed Week started, you have on top of this, I mean, the thing that always gets that doesn't get talked about, even in Blink of an Eye, which is a great documentary. Again, a great one on that. The new Aero package that was run. We talk about Aero this year. The Aero package that was run at Daytona in 2001. Everybody going into that race knew that was going to be an amazingly competitive race because they introduced because the 2000 season, on top of everything else, we talked about it through Jerry Nadeau's perspective. We've now talked about it through February. It was also a season where they really struggled with having a decent restrictor plate package because they did something about like mandating shocks or something in the 2000 Daytona 500, and that race was garbage. Like, you may think like, a race was like, like boring nowadays or something, but that was a race where Dale Jarrett just utterly dominated the entire field. And the race ended under caution. There were few incidents. It was a safe race, at least. So, I mean, there's that to be said. But, and it had almost an upset story with Johnny Benson coming into it. But he just literally got his doors blown off there by the Fords at the end there because they had just such a significant advantage. And this has happened in Daytona history before. But in recent memory, it definitely stands out kind of in infamy that way. So really during that same 2000 season when they were putting restrictor plates in the cars in New Hampshire, they were also trying to figure out a good package for the super speedways. And they settled on the whole roof rack and wicker bill thing for the fall race at Talladega. And then what happens in that? You have one of the best races in NASCAR history. Dale Earnhardt's 76th win turns out to be the final win of his career. But even at the time when people didn't know that was going to be his final win, everybody was already thinking, okay, they're going to run this same package at Daytona where the track is narrower, where the transitions into the banking are sharper, and you're going to have a very different set of circumstances there. And nobody knew what that was going to look like. And I remember as a fan watching the action that week, seeing very competitive, but very clean racing. And that was really the interesting thing too, especially in the aftermath of what was happening in the 2000 season. The Bud Shootout was run without a caution. The duels had some incidents, but no major accidents, 1 and 2 car incidents. And that was despite some absolutely brazen moves. We didn't have the yellow line, people going 4 and 5 wide into corners, like not like exaggerated Rick Allen 4 and 5 wide, like actual super speedway. This guy made this move to get that spot kind of thing. It was incredible. And then all this culminating in the 500, which had a record number of lead changes. I mean, the most in the restrictor plate era, I believe, at least in the first, last 10 or 15 years before that. I guess it would be 15 years, but I mean, at least within the last 10 years or so. And just having a really competitive race there and also a very clean race in that too. It's obviously everybody always plays the clips of Tony Stewart's accident on the back straightaway, but that was on lap like 174. And there were only 2 other cautions before that, one with a 1-car incident and another one with like 2 cars that sideswiped each other in the tri-oval. And that was it. It was a competitive and fast race, but also a clean race. But of course, this was again still against the backdrop of what happened in the 2000 season, and you had these guys out there that weren't running the Hans device, and there was this this concern about about what was being done and what wasn't being done, and it was just being kind of pushed down the line. Then of course the last lap of the race happened. The other thing that was really interesting with the 2000 deal is the interpretation of what the problem actually was. It's also kind of an interesting, and I mean, I don't want to make too much of this, but I mean, I think I just want to kind of explain kind of my thinking process in making the video. I think it was also kind of an interesting video about the problem solving process, because at the same time, one thing that comes up a lot in the video is a lot of people complaining and saying, oh, well, these cars are going too fast for the track. And it's like, well, wait a minute, where's that coming from? It's these fatalities aren't happening because the cars are too fast for the track. It's happening because the drivers aren't being suitably protected enough from a common, neck and skull injury. That's what's happening. It's not, I mean, if it's, there's a clip from Kenny Wallace at one point saying if you hit the wall at 160 or 140, I mean, what's the difference? It's the driver protection that was an issue. And that, it was strange that the way that the problem solving was approached was looking at the cars, or looking at safer, or looking at barriers, or looking at this and that, and not looking so much at the driver compartment itself, like not changing anything there. If you look at the interview with Dale Earnhardt before back in 2000, I believe he was interviewed at Richmond. The ones that big thank you to the Scene Vault, of course, another huge source there for the article they just happened to post on Twitter, was being the interviews with Dale Earnhardt in the 2000 season, and kind of commenting on the controversies because of these accidents. That was definitely a big thing to talk about. You get a real sense of just what, this belief that not only, is the driver compartment or driver restraints not treated as like a serious concern, or like that's the source of the problem. But there's like a whole thing about like wearing open face helmets versus closed face helmets, and hitting a part of the track and being able to be loose enough that like your face hits like your belt buckle or the steering wheel or something like that, and like that being treated as like a good thing. Like it's like when you hear the DMV, when they talk about like a driver being, oh, I'm not going to wear a seatbelt in my car because in an accident, I want to be able to be thrown clear from the accident. And you don't stop and think and say, well, wait a minute, is it really going to be safer to be thrown out of the car than to be strapped into it and have the car take more of the punishment than your body? I mean, when you're just outside the car, that's just you. There's no protection. And there's an interesting one. Again, I would check out the article there. It's linked on the Scene Vault podcast Twitter. The same articles that were shown in the video there. It's a very different deal, but it's just strange how the problem was interpreted by those involved, whether it was the sanctioning body, the drivers, or anybody, as an issue of the cars being too fast, where, okay, yeah, maybe that's true, but the way to solve that isn't slowing the cars down. It's making the cars safer. It's making the impact safer. It's doing all the things that have to be done. I think back to watching the broadcast of Imola in 1994 for the Formula One, and of course, that awful weekend that they had there with Ayrton Senna and Roland Ratzenberger and everything. And there's actually a part in that broadcast where they have the accident with Rubens Barrichello, and they're recovering from that, and Barrichello thankfully walked away from the accident. But then they talk about like, oh, how safe the cars are. And isn't it amazing that, these cars are safe and they can put up with a lot of, punishment. The drivers walk away. And then, of course, those other two accidents happen. And then suddenly things are very different. And that one weekend at Imola was like that whole season in 2000. And, it really was. It was a shocking and really unsettling time, at a time where, I'm sure these broadcasters want to focus on like, having a nice closeout for the years that they'd been, following NASCAR during its rise. It was during a real peak in the sport there. Again, like I said, TNN, ESPN, CBS, they were, broadcasting their last races before Fox and NBC took over. It was already a transitional period, but it is a period that's overlooked. And that's kind of the deal of tying that all in there. But yeah, it's a different situation there. But that was really the focus on doing that video and talking about that, because I think that's again something that really needed to be discussed quite a bit. So, oh gosh, you just look at your comment there, Mitchell. You saw both Adams and Kenny's crashes live. Goodness me, I can't even imagine. There was, yeah, goodness, that was, and much like Kyle Petty says in the video there. I mean, it's awful that it had to happen at New Hampshire for those two, because it's sad. I mean, the Bear family has been really supportive, and the interviews with Kyle Petty are very interesting, and his responses to that. And that kind of leads me into the next group of people I really have to thank for the video. Pretty much all the videos that were used on there were from content that's on YouTube. So I made sure to post everybody's link of any video that was used in that production there, and just thanking them. So if you want to learn more about the tooth, because I want also have that be a repository of places people can check out and learn more about that 2000 season, because there's even more than what was touched on in that one. The Cup races, the Busch races, the Truck Series races, several tributes, several reports done. I mean, there's one that Steve Wade was being interviewed in. That's really powerful stuff. That would not have been possible without the people that posted that content on there. And I made sure that they're mentioned. If anybody is not mentioned in there, that you see your content in there and I didn't mention it, you make sure you let me know, and we'll update the credits on there to make sure that that's added into at least the Google document there that's in there. And then the articles, of course, that we came across, not just Scene Vault's article that was posted on Twitter, but other stuff that was found online, the Google News archives. That's all referenced on there. I even have the direct links to the Wayback Machine links to make sure that you could check those out as well. One moment I mentioned that Kenny Irwin's accident happened on his first timed lap. You can see the practice sheet is archived on NASCAR.com, and it shows it at the bottom of the list with no speed listed, but there. So it indicates, much like when you see with modern press list, it's those kind of thing. But yeah, I thought that was really critical, especially like, a follow-up to the JD project. I was really careful to list as many of everybody that I had cited in there. And the next project I'm working on, I'm doing the same thing. But yeah, all that's on there. And again, I want that to be a repository for people to learn more about the 2000 season and dig up even more stuff that even I hadn't heard about. I mean, again, Mitchell, my goodness, at the time that was, that's certainly a whole other account that's separate from that. But yeah, definitely check out those lists there along with the video, and we'll do that. So I want to transition into that as well to kind of follow up on that. What I've also put over here next to my water bottle here, this is the auction that we're doing, the charity auction. For those of you who aren't aware, we started an eBay auction on Saturday. I started the auction during the video premiere on Saturday for a drawing that was donated by our friend Robert Taylor up in Canada. Big thank you to Robert up there. When we were staying at his place, he took us in when we were covering Most Sport this year. So for those of you who really like the Most Sport coverage, you really have Robert to thank you on that one, to thank for that one, because he really helped make that happen and make that affordable for us on our rather limited budget to do these trips there. So a big thank you to him on that. On the way out, when we were stopping by his place and saying his goodbyes, he provided this drawing that he did of Justin Haley's car at the that won the Daytona July race. And I want to show it on here because you can get kind of a sense of it from the video there, but it's absolutely gorgeous. Look at this. Rob is excellent at doing really fine detail, and this is completely hand-drawn that he did there of the 77, and colored pencils, pens, and all that. He did a really nice job, I felt, on that, and he handed it over to us and he said, do something good with this. And I said, and I wasn't sure what we were going to do on it. We did do a fundraiser selling some of his drawings before to benefit the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's research. We did that back in 2013. But as this video came together, the thought was to do something tied in with this. And what we did is we did some research on, of course, Victory Junction exists, Adam Petty's organization. And then I contacted the folks at the Kenny Irwin Jr. Foundation, and the person that in charge of that got back to me and said that they are still open for business. And then after, I'm going to set this over here for safekeeping. I also contacted the Bank of Bolivar in Missouri, and contacted them. I didn't hear back from them yet, but I'm sure that if there was a charitable foundation that was started in the immediate aftermath of the accident, if you see the video, there's a link to the Tony Roper fan page that has the same address that I posted in the video. They started a foundation to benefit students at the high school in Roper's hometown. That was founded over there at the bank. They don't have a website necessarily, but the plan is, again, we're doing that auction. I believe I'm really pleased with the response so far. Actually, let me pull it up again now. I think last I saw we had like 9 or 10 bids on it, so real excited. Oh gosh, yeah, we're up to 10 bids now. It's up to $26 on that. I'm donating the shipping cost, so there's not going to be any cost for shipping on there. You only pay the amount that's going to be donated to the organization, less whatever the listing cost is or anything. But I will ship it myself, and I'm also going to throw in whoever the winning bidder is. I'm going to announce this here too. I have this next to it. I'm also going to be throwing in one of this original Kenny Irwin hero card with the original slip on the back for the merchandise from that season. I got 2 of these. One of them was used in the production of the video. Kind of took some screen caps of it. I'm also going to be throwing this in there. That's why it's kind of curved up here. I'm going to roll it in the same tube and send that out as a bonus. So if you're interested in this and the drawing was signed by Justin Haley. Big thanks again to the folks over at Colleague Racing for making that happen. That was one thing that we coordinated with the team there and made sure we got the picture there of Justin signing it for the auction there. So huge thanks to the folks there at the track there. I think that's really helped get the drawing even more attention. I think it's autographed or not. I think it's a stunning work. Rob, I've been very fortunate that Rob has done coordinated some stuff with me before. He did a drawing of JD McDuffie's car back before we were starting the book even. We just happened to cross paths online and we did an article on him. So always eager to get more word spread about his artwork out there. And I think that this was a perfect opportunity. It just kind of worked out that way with the video. Yeah, it was a really crazy deal there with that. But very thankful to Robert and if you're interested in that auction, again, those details are all online there and you can check that out. So let's see. Let me get everything else on here. All right. Apparently another hour for inspection. Okay. Let me get the Bob Pock page queued up here in the meantime. And we're going to do, when we get to, we'll probably do some trivia here in a bit. Let's see. What's this? 15%. 27. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, so we're gonna do some trivia here along the way, since we're running long here, but that's okay. We already planned on doing that. I didn't plan on actually kind of buzzing through that about as quickly as I could. If you have any other questions on anything that we haven't talked about, I know we got a lot of ground to cover. We did do the Phoenix show. I appreciate everybody who joined up on that. I know we kind of did that a bit later than other ones, so I apologize for our regular viewers if you missed that one last Monday. It is available on the channel there, but I wanted to make sure that we did that while the memories of Phoenix were fresh. Still have never thought of anything else that we didn't talk about from that week. But we're already looking ahead to Homestead here and finishing up our coverage from this year. Now, let's see. Let me get this here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do the trivia segment here pretty soon. And after we get the call, we're going to do the giveaway for the other certificates. We'll do the official signing of whoever clinches the last car championship for this year. And then we'll do the giveaways for that. And I'll also mail those out to the winners there. We're going to determine some on that. What I'll probably do on that, I was thinking about this coming in. We'll pick a couple questions. We'll have those kind of be like, I guess, our daily double or something. We'll pick like a real crazy question. And then whoever is the first one in the chat to get the right answer, we'll give away one of these there for that. So we'll have those on hand because I mean these are just gonna I don't want these just to sit in my drawer and do nothing. I think it'd be kind of a neat way to kind of tie something in. We've talked about that in the past about doing something with promotions there through the deal there. So we'll get that all set up. Let me close these windows. Oh yeah, I was gonna get Pocris's thing pulled up. Anything new on that? Checking out his page. Okay, that was the 15th. Speed to win. Take another. All right. Final owner points, final driver points. Okay, do we have anything else here? I see a picture. Okay, there's a picture from 55 or a video from 55 minutes ago showing Kyle Busch's car going through inspection. Expect another 90 minutes or so before knowing. That was posted an hour ago. So maybe within the next half an hour, that would be good. We'll find out, though, if that's the case. Championship 4 can't get stage points. Okay, we got some interviews with Joe Gibbs. That was 20 minutes ago. What's the most recent tweet that he has here? Oh, Jeff Gluck actually asked Kyle Busch about his apparent lack of emotional response after the race. Okay. I don't know if this will play very good over the audio, but maybe we'll do that and kind of get that tied up here. Just keep that in a safe spot there. All right. Okay, I don't want to blow anybody's ears out here. Let's do this. Let's make sure that's muted. Do we have a response? Speaker out. All right. Audio. Let's try the audio here. I haven't heard this yet, so let's see. I don't know. I don't know what he says, but we'll find out.
I don't know. Just I'm not exactly sure. I kind of probably don't remember much of it already, but I do remember taking the white flag and crossing underneath that, and just I had some tears rolling down my eyes for the last lap, and I was just like, "Come on, man, we still got to finish this damn thing." That was such an assist, but that was my last lap time. I don't even know.
I quit looking about 10 to go.
Okay, so hopefully it was decent. I don't know. We had a good lead to the guys behind us, but overall, just emotions were starting to set in. I just probably didn't know where the hell my mind was at, but knew we had won and we had won big, and was just kind of being a bit more subdued about it.
Oh, okay. Well, there you have it. I'm not sure how well that played over the speaker there, but okay. Yeah, no post tech post tech results yet. We're still keeping an eye out on that. But yeah, apparently, according to what Kyle Busch just said there, that he was emotional during the final laps. Was apparently had a couple tears come to his eye at the end there, and it sounded like it was almost kind of an out of body experience there. He was kind of describing at the end. So he did acknowledge that it seemed rather subdued there for him, but he didn't seem to have a clear reason as to why. I guess perhaps you could say it's something with the JD Gibbs thing. I don't know what he was hearing over the radio. I'm sure, to see any of Gibbs' cars win the championship meant a lot to Joe after the tragedy back in January. Yeah, interesting. At least, I mean, another piece of the puzzle, I suppose, to come in there. Yes, I am from Northern California. No one. So yeah, thank you on that. So we are still on the West Coast here and doing all that. So let's see. All right. We'll get into trivia here. I want to have to keep that page up. Let's refresh this again. Okay, nothing new. Okay, we're going to keep that muted. All right, let me get the deal here. Get that all set up. All right. Okay. So these first rounds here, until we get the inspection results, we're not going to do those for the certificate giveaways because we don't know which one we're giving away. So we'll do that. We'll have that kind of be our lightning round. So we'll start off here. Can you hear me okay? Keep moving this microphone around. All right. Let's get that kind of moved there a little bit. All right. All right. Whoop. Okay. Oh, visit my site there. There we go. Oh, you're from the Bay Area. Oh, fantastic. Oh, it's good to have some local fans on here. We always try to make out the races, the Sonoma Raceway. So if you see me out there, definitely say hi. I'm usually wearing the white hat here at the tracks there. So that's kind of our race day garb. Let's see. But thank you again for checking out the site. Okay. So let's see. We as we keep the page up here. Actually, let me put it on the big screen here. We'll do that again. Bam. There we go. And we'll keep that refreshed. Okay. Kyle Busch said he was thinking through the final run, the adjustments he wanted to. Sorry, I'm not phrasing this right. Kyle Busch said he was thinking through the final run, the adjustments he wanted if the caution came out. Latest post by Pockrass 20 seconds ago. So again, still doing post-race interviews with Kyle Busch. If Phoenix is any indication, by the time the race winner was walking up the stairs, that's when they did the call for inspection. Although for the championship, I'm sure they're looking at the cars even closer than they would back there. So we'll find out. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into this. We're coming up at the 2-hour mark. That's a good place to start on our trivia thing. So get your trivia hats on, folks. We're going to go ahead and start off with this. We're going to pick our category again. So if you, we have, let's see, 6 categories on our little Trivial Pursuit deal here. Whichever category gets the most votes, that's the one we're going to start with. And then we'll do our lightning round for the certificates here as we move forward. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first category is NASCAR. The second category is pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. So the categories again, go ahead and type in your favorite category and we'll start with that one. NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, wild card. Okay, I'm seeing 4 for tracks already, so that looks like that's the okay. We got 5 for okay. We're gonna start with tracks. That'll be a good one. All righty. Okay, first question: who led a record 159 laps for a 200-lap race at Michigan in 1994? Who led a record 159 laps for a 200-lap race at Michigan in 1994? Do not go to Racing Reference. Go ahead and just type in your guess. Could be first name, last name, could be full name. You can go ahead and do it in there. Mark Martin, Dale Sr., Ernie Irvin, all good guesses. Who led a record 159 laps for a 200-lap race at Michigan in 1994? Any guesses on that? Mark Martin, Rusty Gordon Sr., okay, let's get the answer here. The answer is Jeff Bodine. Jeff Bodine is the answer during the old Hoosier tire war thing there. So there we go. Got a little bit of a callback to the NASCAR Man video that we did earlier this year. All right, let's do another tracks question. That was a good one. Here we go. Who won the final ragtop race at Darlington? That's the full question. Who won the final ragtop race? Ragtop in quotes. RAGTOP. Final ragtop race at Darlington. Which driver? Who won the final ragtop race at Darlington? Herb Thomas. There we go. Any other guesses on that? There we go. Lee Petty, Herb Thomas, Richard Petty. Good guesses. Good guesses. Keep guessing. You haven't hit the button yet, so I don't know which ones are right, which ones aren't. I don't know this one either. This is gonna be a new one for me too. There we go. All right, you can see my face a lot better without the hat. Maybe for better or for worse. Of course, the lighting is still working on. Okay. The final ragtop race at Darlington. Okay, here we go. Doc Hudson. I like it. All right, here we go. Answer coming up. Answer is Nelson Stacy. Nelson Stacy. How about that? I wouldn't have guessed that either. I thought the Herb Thomases had it. All right. And let's see here. Okay, we're going to get the next question here. Next question. What track is nicknamed the Desert Jewel? What track is nicknamed, quote, the Desert Jewel? Which track has that nickname? Phoenix, the first guess. Las Vegas is the second guess. You have guesses for Phoenix and Vegas. Any other guesses on that? What track, rather, is nicknamed the Desert Jewel? Track is nicknamed the Desert Jewel. Okay, we got Phoenix and Vegas as both excellent guesses. Which one is it going to be? The answer is Phoenix. There we go. V2, you got the first there. There you go, man. I was almost starting to think it was Las Vegas. I was talking myself out of it because this thing's, again, this is the one from like 98. So it could be an anticipatory name for the first race there. So you never know. All right, Phoenix is the correct answer for that one. And we'll refresh this deal again here. Did I already mention big congratulations to both Paul Menard and David Reagan on their careers as they wrap up their full-time career? If not, big congratulations to both of them. It's good to be able to retire on one's own terms and at least from full-time competition. I have no doubt that both of them are going to be involved in racing in one way or another. But a big thanks to both of them. That's why I'm wearing my bright yellow fella shirt from 2009. I think the 98 car there. Yeah. One of the first shirts I made for my old BSGN days there, doing the old starting grids. And of course, the amazing David Reagan also retiring at the same time. Good deals for both of them. So really pleased with that. All right. Okay. What track did Jeff Gordon say was head and shoulders above any other in 1998? Ooh, these are really good. What track did Jeff Gordon say was head and shoulders above any other in 1998? Head and shoulders above any other, said Jeff Gordon in 1998. Indy, Vegas, Darlington, all good guesses. I'm not just saying that. These are all good guesses. It's very true. There we go. Do I look less sinister or more when my glasses are up? I don't know. We're going to be working our lighting. I don't have my David Land kind of lighting set up in here. I need to have something look less like I'm being investigated. So, okay. What track did Jeff Gordon say was head and shoulders above any other in 1998? And the answer is Las Vegas. Wow. Well, so there you go, Wookie, man. You nailed it. Right on, man. By the way, thanks for joining in. All right. Okay. Tracks. Next question. What driver broke a hand punching a wall after losing to Earnhardt at Talladega? What driver broke a hand punching a wall after losing to Earnhardt at Talladega? I believe I wrote this into something before, if I remember correctly. What driver broke a hand punching a wall after losing to Earnhardt at Talladega? Allison, Skinner, Irvin, Wallace, Irvin. Okay, here we go. Swervin' Irvin. Okay, here we go. Here comes the guess. The answer is Davey Allison. Davey Allison is the correct answer. There you go. Stephen C. You got it, man. Davey Allison. Yeah, I believe I put that in the book. That's when July of 91. That was, now people asking me the first race I ever saw on TV. That was the first one. July of 91, the Die Hard 500. Rick Mast's car slides on its roof. That was also the first diecast I picked up, was the one car back when they cost $1.89 at Target. How much times change, how much money change, how much everything changes. But yeah, that was in the book there. All right. Whoop, you know what? Let's get the next question. What year in the 80s did speeds at Talladega first top 212 miles per hour? What year in the 80s did speeds at Talladega first top 212 miles an hour? 89, 87, 88, 85. What year in the 80s did speeds at Talladega first top 212 miles per hour? Okay, we got guesses 87, 85, 88. The answer is 1986. 1986. Now, I'm not sure if that's right because, okay, so Elliott's record was in 1987 at Talladega. But I guess somebody else was 212 point less than that. Okay, now we are going to go to Racing Reference because I gotta find that one out. Hold up, folks. Hold the phone. We are going to verify this. Cup as you are. Okay, Talladega in 86. Okay, there we go. 1986 Winston 500, May 4th, 1986, pole speed 212.229 miles per hour. Your pole sitter for that race, Bill Elliott, because of course. But yeah, not in 1987. So it first topped the 212 mile an hour mark in 86. And then the overall record, the one that everybody hears about, is in the spring race there, 212.809 in the spring of 1987. So there you go. A little bit of factoid I was not aware of either. Interestingly, in between, back when they used to have the second race in July, the pole speed was scrubbed down to 209.005 miles per hour. And the pole sitter was again Bill Elliott, because there you go. Okay. So, hey, how about that? Okay. Well, hang on. Let's get that fired back up. Do we have anything on here? I see notifications popping up. Hang on. Hang on. No, I do not. I do not. At least not on Pockers's page. Big thanks to Pockers too, of course. I mean, I really, Jeff said this earlier, of course. I mean, it's hard to imagine, the NASCAR media landscape without Bob. I'm so glad that, I mean, he's not the only one, of course. There's a whole group of them that are fantastic, but it's good to have a standby here that people can count on there. So he corrected me actually back at Phoenix, and rightly so. I originally had a tweet after the Xfinity race that I believe that both there were two cars that had a missing lug nut, and it turned out it was just one team, because the person said they said the 8 and the 8. I thought they said the 8 and 1 had a loose lug nut, but they said that the 8 had one loose lug nut, so it was just the 8. So it was like, okay, well, yeah. So he's very quick on that. So I appreciate. You got to have people keep them honest in there, because, and so I just deleted the tweet at that point, because that's not going to be good. So, there we go. Okay. How many laps were run in most Daytona beach and road course races? Ooh, now here's a good one. Here's a good question. How many laps were run in most Daytona beach and road course races? How many laps? 50, 60, any other guesses? 100. Any other guesses on here? What if they had a green-white checker on the Daytona Beach road course? Because there's too much oil in the sand. Go to put the stage eye on there. How many laps were run in most Daytona Beach and road course races? 110, 254, 50. Okay, the answer is 39. 39. Everybody got the over. 39 is the answer on here. Yeah, surprising. The guys, everybody had 50. I thought you guys were going to be right on that one. 39. That seems kind of arbitrary, doesn't it? But, hey, that's how it all shakes out here. Oh, this is here. Ah. Dude. Where is all this? Okay. Alrighty. 4 mile track. Yes, I believe so. So yeah, that is a weird one. You think, yeah, why not make it just an even 40? I mean, what's the big deal? Or make it 50? I don't know. Guess it's part of the marketing. Okay. What's the oldest U.S. racing facility still hosting NASCAR events? Now, okay. Got to add some qualifiers to this one, because this is made in 1998. So as of 1998, I'll add that to it. What is the oldest U.S. racing facility still hosting NASCAR events? The oldest racing facility still hosting NASCAR events as of 1998. So we have guesses for Indy, Martinsville, Milwaukee, the Mile, Milwaukee. Everybody's going for Milwaukee. Okay. Gateway. Let's see. The answer is the Milwaukee Mile. There you go. The majority does have it. The Milwaukee Mile is indeed the correct answer. All right, here we go. Make sure, like I say, make sure you stick around after the call here. We're going to do the certificate round here after that, and we'll probably wrap up the show at that point here, and at least for now. And again, make sure you stick by. So we're going to be expecting those results very soon. Any moment now. We'll just keep doing some questions here. Maybe we'll probably do the wild card for the certificate round, and I'll preview the questions to see if they're suitably challenging enough. Okay, yeah, still no call on that one. Okay. What venue Next question. What venue has 2 drag strips, a BMX track, 2 road courses, and 2 off-road layouts? Might even pick this category. It's pretty good. What venue has 2 drag strips, a BMX track, 2 road courses, and 2 off-road layouts? Which track? Okay, Sonoma. That's one guess. Any other guesses here? What venue, so like what track, basically, has 2 drag strips, a BMX track, 2 road courses, and 2 off-road layouts? Las Vegas, the Glen, Vegas, IRP, all good guesses. 2 drag strips, a BMX track, 2 road courses, and 2 off-road layouts. Vegas does seem to make sense, but you never know. You never know what this thing is thinking. Alrighty. And the answer is Las Vegas. Bingo. You guys got it. There you go. All right. Next question. What track hosted the first 400-mile race of the 1998 NASCAR Winston Cup season? What track hosted the first 400-mile race of the 1998 NASCAR Winston Cup season? The first 400-mile race of the 1998 NASCAR Winston Cup season. Vegas, Fontana, Rockingham, Vegas, Rockingham. We got lots of guesses. Lots of guesses, lots of guesses. Any other guesses here in the meantime? Daytona, Rockingham. The answer is Rockingham. Bingo. Rockingham's got it. All right. Okay, next track question. What current NASCAR Winston Cup track's infield was once a football field? What current NASCAR Winston Cup track's infield was once a football field? Okay, we have guesses for Bristol. Are these still overlaps from the last one? What current NASCAR Winston Cup track's infield was once a football field? Okay, we're getting several for Bristol now. Okay, is that indeed the answer? And the answer is indeed Bristol. Correct. All right. Okay, we're getting close now. We're gonna have a champion. You're gonna have a champion crowned live on air. So make sure you guys stay tuned. We're BJ McLeod looking very good, but technical inspection could throw a wrench into that. Depending on which driver is disqualified. One of the ones that is a contender is Eric Jones, who was the first Cup driver since 1992 to be disqualified and classified last as a result, which happened at Richmond. So everything is possible. Everything is possible. Nothing is settled yet. So, okay. On to the next question. As we continue to wait here. And, whoop, nope, not that. We did this already. Okay, this is a new question. What NASCAR Winston Cup track has a mile-long grandstand? What NASCAR Winston Cup track has a mile-long grandstand? 1 mile long grandstand. Which track has one? Which NASCAR Winston Cup track has a 1 mile long grandstand? Pocono, we're seeing several votes for that. Indianapolis. Any other guesses here? Talladega. Oh, there we go. Pocono, Indy. See. There we go. The answer is Talladega. There you go. Scott from Georgia. You're the only one that got it. There you go. Talladega. At least as of 1998, had a mile-long grandstand. Okay. On to this one. Nailed it. There you go. Boom. What's the only 1998 Winston Cup track that was on the 1951 NASCAR circuit? What's the only 1998? Did it say 98? Yeah. What's the only 1998 Winston Cup track that was on the 1951 NASCAR circuit? Martinsville. There we go. And the answer is indeed Martinsville. You guys got it. Oh, thought that was new for a second. Nope, not yet. All righty. Oh, by the way, for those of you who are in the I already tweeted this last night. For those of you who are in the YouTube premiere for 3 before February, I do apologize that at that one point there was that clip of Jeff Bodine's interview after his 2000 Truck Series race where the audio was garbled. Apparently there was a miscommunication there with YouTube where they said that it wasn't advertiser friendly for some reason. Again, I try to keep things as clean as possible on these here. So they were very quick to reverse it. Again, big thanks to YouTube there for getting that straightened out. So those of you who saw the video, they're live. Again, I apologize that was scrambled for some reason. I mean, I put it in private mode and they didn't have any complaints at all. So I was completely unprepared when I switched it to the premiere and it did that. So hopefully they'll fix that policy going forward there. That if that was an issue, I could have very easily fix that, but it looked like that was just a miscommunication there. So if you watch the video now, the video now still has the interview in it and the audio is back up to the proper levels there, so you'll still be able to hear it. So just a note for any of you who were in the premiere there and had concerns about that. I mean, again, I appreciate you guys bringing it up too, because otherwise I don't think I would have noticed it. So yeah, I've gone over looking at so many times. But yeah, it should be working fine now. They got back to me pretty quick. I think it was within about 2 hours of the premiere. They got back to me and they adjusted it, which I was very pleased with because it being on a weekend, I didn't expect to hear back for a couple days. So kudos to YouTube on that. Thank you for getting back to me on that. So we're all set now. Okay. Next question here. What track changed its Miller 500 to a second MBNA race for the 1998 season? What track changed its Miller 500 to a second MBNA race for the 1998 season? Dover, Michigan. There we go. And the answer is indeed Dover. You guys got it. I can't fool you guys on that. Got some easy ones peppered in here. Okay. What track's fans saw Fireball Roberts run his last race? What track's fans saw Fireball Roberts run his last race? Charlotte, okay. Yep. Dega, you guys are the Charlotte votes. Yep, Charlotte indeed. Got some easier ones on that one. There you go. Racer 106 2000. Yep, you got that previous one there. Right on. It's good to know that. I mean, these are questions. 1997 doesn't feel that long ago to me, but it feels like maybe like 10 years ago. Not, I mean, gosh, 21. Like it's insane to me. I mean, but that's time for you. Let's see. Anything? Do we have anything on this? Gosh, we're gonna go all the way. If this gets too late, the articles might get pushed till tomorrow. I do apologize for that. We're gonna push to get them out as soon as we can. I'm gonna at least try to get the truck article out, and we'll just see how things go. It's a little bit earlier on this side here, but I did have a work shift last night, so that makes it a little bit trickier. But we'll find out on that. I'll keep you guys posted on the Twitter there in the meantime. All right. Next track question. Here we go. What was once called the Alabama International Motor Speedway? What was once called the Alabama International Motor Speedway? All right. What indeed? Oop. And the answer got Talladega. Talladega, several votes on here, of course. And the answer is indeed Talladega, of course. So, yes, Talladega, the former Alabama Speedway. All right. Yeah, you're born in 97? Goodness. Now I'm feeling really old. I'll tell you what. I got plenty of gray hairs already. I think I just already got a racing stripe going now. Okay. Alrighty. What Eastern track did ISC obtain full ownership of in 1997? What Eastern track did ISC obtain full ownership of in 1997? Rockingham, Wilkesboro. Any other guesses? Get this distracting basketball jersey ad off my page here. Okay, nothing on there. All right. North Wilkesboro, New Hampshire, Rockingham, Bristol, Wilkesboro, Watkins Glen. Okay, here we go. The answer, Watkins Glen. Watkins Glen. There we go. Doritos Mountain Dew, you got it. Right on, right on. I was almost thinking Wilkesboro or Bristol, but Watkins Glen. Great track, by the way. I mean, it's that's another one we're looking to maybe do again one of these days. We're still working on our 2020 schedule. That's another thing that's going to kind of be on our back burner for this off season. Once we have a better idea on that, I'd like to do Vegas or Fontana in the spring, since those are pretty early and close to the beginning of the season. And then Texas in April to kind of kick us off. That's the best case scenario. One or the other there. Will probably be the most likely scenario. We'll probably end up picking one or the other. And if so, probably be Texas. That would be great. I just, yeah, we're trying to tick off as many of them on the list as possible, but also maintain enough ties with the stuff here on the West Coast. Homestead in March, I'm open to that. I was hoping to be able to do that for the championship because I think it looks like it's a great venue. I just keep hearing how modern and nice the facility is and everything. And hopefully that indicates that it's a very easy to navigate garage area, which would be nice. That's certainly the big thing that I look at. It's luckily a lot of the tracks that we've covered so far have kind of been that way. Watkins Glen is kind of a long pathway there between the exit to the exit from the track all the way to the garage area, especially in the Xfinity side. The Xfinity cars have to go down a very long track before they finally get into the garages there. Darlington's a little bit easier. The media center is kind of pretty close to where the entrance to the Cup Series garage is. The Xfinity garage is further away because that's on the back stretch. So you got to pretty much just be in there if you want to be there during the race. It takes too long to get there from the media center. And then Sears Point is the closest one I think I've done so far, where pretty much you open the door, go down the stairs, and the entrance is like right there. So that's always a big thing. Big thing I always try to do. Yeah. Pretty much, yeah, kind of going back to that part of the video. That's always the thing. I try to kind of navigate, find my way to the garage area, and at least I could figure that out. Then that makes a lot of what I do easier. Okay. Next question. Who won the first race run on Richmond's redesigned raceway in 1988? There we go. Who won the first race run on Richmond's redesigned raceway in 1988? Did Marshall Pruitt do one on, I'm seeing the comments here. Marshall Pruitt did a video on Jeff Krosnoff. If he did, I'm going to have to check that out. I saw the video he did on Greg Moore with Pappas and those guys. And that was so cool. I mean, if you guys haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend adding that to your YouTube playlist. Marshall did he's always been a great open wheel guru there. But also having, you just see like Dario Franchitti, Max Pappas, and Paul Tracy, just extremely laid back and casual, like just that was cool. Yeah. And yeah, Paul Tracy dropping F-bombs everywhere. It's hilarious. It's hilarious, but also profound though. I mean, you can tell how much they cared for Greg and the story there. And there's parts of it that gave me chills, quite honestly. The way that Max was describing in particular, Max is a way of doing that. He's one of the first people I interviewed at Sears Point in 2010. He was telling me about how much he admired Ayrton Senna when he was younger and things like that. He really went like full on, because I was curious just why he has such passion for most things, but that made a great interview there. So definitely recommend watching. So definitely check that out. Okay. Who's the first driver to win on there? Oh, yeah, let me get back to the answer on that. The answer was Davey Allison was the first driver to win on Richmond's redesigned raceway in the fall of 1988. All right. All righty. Oh, we'll just keep refreshing this until we get something on the page here. Okay, looks like we're going for a record here on the disqualification show. And I started this one later, too. I kind of sat on it for a bit, just kind of seeing the strangeness of the post-race celebration there. for Kyle Busch. But yeah, still no call on here. These are just still the same posts from before. So maybe okay, we're getting close. I think we're getting very close. Alrighty. Okay, here we go. Next question. How many last place finishes Larson have? I think he has 5, probably up to 6 now. If the thing holds. Pull that up here for you. Dudes in the Cup Series. Oh, not that one. He has 6, so this would be his 7th if it stands up. 6 in the Cup Series, his 7th overall in the Cup Series if it stands up. I believe he has 1 in the Xfinity Series as well, so it's a different deal there. Ooh, who's picked to win the 2020 NASCAR Championship? Ooh, that's a good question. In the Cup Series, it's wide open. Rick Ware's team, I think, is going to continue to improve based on things from this year. I mean, obviously, they had a lot of struggles this year, but it didn't seem like they had quite as many struggles as they did last year. A lot of very early exits then, but I think they're kind of getting their feet under them. Oh, we have car passed, engine still getting torn down. Okay, great. Thank you, Wookie. So it looks like we might have that. Garrett Smithley, maybe. I don't know. There was a guy. Gosh, I keep forgetting his name. There was a guy on the JD Motorsports team that I was hanging out with over at Phoenix, and we were doing picks on who was going to finish last the Xfinity race, and he was going for Yaley, and I was going for Dexter Bean. So that's always crazy. Yeah, 50 team, that would be entertaining. I mean, wouldn't that be something? I don't know if I want to give a boxer the certificate there. I mean, of course, if I wouldn't really give it to the owner, I guess we'd give it to the driver, but yeah. Car passed, engine still getting torn down. Okay, so let's see. So we should be very close to a call here. This is pretty close to when Pocker said the range, I believe, was going to be too. So looks like we're pretty good on it. Yep, there it is. Okay. Car is good. Still engine being torn down. Regular process. Okay, Collins, like Pocker's just posted that 2 minutes ago. So, okay. There's good. Okay, so we're still on top of it. I think we're very close. That's pretty much a call right there. But we'll stick around and see if they have anything else on that. If they talk about lug nut penalties or anything. He didn't do a video on Krosnoff. That's too bad. I don't know. What team owner has the most NASCAR championships? That's a good question. Gosh, I don't think Jimmy Means' team does because he won the one in 92. And then he won one in 88. Yeah, I'd have to go over. The good thing is we're now that the season wraps up, that's going to give me a chance to kind of work on updating the books in our NASCAR digital library, which is of course, our yearly season updates. Yeah, probably McDuffie or Nemechek. I mean, those are good guesses on there. But yeah, there's been if you're talking about teams, then that's a little bit different because then you can have something unusual like Jeff Gordon's 1993 championship or something like that. All right. Okay, here we go. Next question. Oh, I'm getting tired. Oh, sorry. I slept about 2 hours a day. I apologize. Okay. Who holds the record for most consecutive poles at the same track? Who holds the record for most consecutive poles at the same track? Which driver? Who holds the record for most consecutive poles at the same track? And this is as of 1998. So if that helps your time range a little bit more. Who holds the record for most consecutive poles at the same track? And the answer is David Pearson. There we go. David Pearson. Right on. All right. Dude. Thinking things. Okay. Nice shot. The 18 car getting pushed out of the line there. All right. Okay. Well, you just keep having that play on a loop, I guess. Okay. All right, another track question here. What NASCAR Winston Cup track is nestled by Andretti Road? What NASCAR Winston Cup track is nestled by Andretti Road? There we go. What NASCAR Winston Cup track is nestled by Andretti Road? We have Pocono, Indy, Nazareth. This is 1998, so it could be possible it's a track that's no longer on the circuit or no longer hosts NASCAR races. So let's see. What NASCAR Winston Cup track is nestled by Andretti Road? Pocono, the Glen. Alrighty. The answer is indeed Pocono, your Ian Miller's home track. There we go, man. Right on. All right. What track is heralded as the place where drivers, quote, earn their stripes? You got two, Big Blue? Right on, man. What track is heralded as the place where drivers, quote, earn their stripes? Darlington. Okay. You guys got it. Yep, Darlington. Darlington is the answer. Darlington is often the answer. Kind of fits that way. There's good. Yeah, right. Oh, good. Oh. Gosh, it's 6:30. It feels like it's 3:30. Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Excellent. Oh, yeah, the Pee Wee 100. Wasn't that in like last week's show? That was crazy. It's like, man, like it's like it sounds like a made up answer or something, but no, that's what it said. Okay. What type of trees lined the track at Martinsville in the early years? What type of trees lined the track at Martinsville in the early years? My choice hairline. Pine, cherry? There's no such thing as a bad guess. Just yeah. Fir, oak, dogwood, maple. Again, what type of trees lined the track at Martinsville in the early years? That's the exact words of the question. Palm, evergreen. Getting a whole forest here in the comments section. Alrighty, here we go. And the answer is dogwoods. There you go. Oh goodness. Dogwoods, Said Head 2, and Beast of Metal 1989. There you go. Pee Wee 100. That was great. Gosh, I'm still trying to remember the question of that one. That was insane. All right. Here, I'm going to take a breather on this for just a moment. A couple of things you may notice here on the set. I got some comments here on this this Bell South hat here. This is one. This isn't the same hat that I wore over at Phoenix last week. I have another one. That one is this one over here in the corner, the green over blue. Got this one a few years ago from a gentleman online. He just goes by Bob on the site. I was on there. We communicated with a while there because he was a big super fan of Kenny Irwin, and he had some of his old stuff there. He was looking to sell, and I was perfectly happy to help him with that along the way. This was years ago, but he was the one who provided some of the great stories about Kenny there that are actually featured in the video, and I'm sending the video over to him as well for him to get checked out because like the story about Kenny Irwin giving his sunglasses to an older person, and other things like that. That was one of the stories that he shared with me. Also, the story about he planning on proposing to his girlfriend as well. That was also from Bob there online. So he's also mentioned in the credits as well. So when you see that on there, that Kenny Irwin super fan on there, that's where that is coming from. So that's gonna be a good deal on that. This hat, I don't believe I got it from him. I got it from another source there. Let me put that back over here. But it is actually autographed by Irwin there. That's what's on the bill there. You can, okay, they're going to light adjusted a little bit so you can see that better. But that was an always interesting thing. I'm not big on like autographs or anything like that. I mean, Derek Cope signed my hat when I was a kid, so that was a fun thing. But that was back in like 1992. Yeah, that was a when I found that online a while back, that was something I had to pick up. That and the piece of the car that was shown on the video a while back. That's off the around the contingency decals there on the Bell South car. I mean, Irwin was like, again, Irwin was, for me personally, you know, he was an interesting driver to me. I think just because, again, he was from that rookie class that Jerry Nadeau was in. And of course, I've done the video on Jerry already and why he was that interesting there to me. But, you know, Irwin was the top rookie in that class. Nadeau couldn't ultimately beat Irwin for that championship. So maybe that was part of the reason that was kind of interested in him in that time period there. But you know, and I've said this many times before. I mean, Irwin was like really the first driver that I was really interested in interviewing, even before I went into doing any kind of motorsports journalism. I had an interest in it because of Dr. Jerry Punch and Bob Jenkins and all those guys on ESPN. They just made it look like a whole lot of fun and just doing like play by play. But in terms of like a beat reporter, closer to what I do now, I mean, the only inkling I had towards doing something like that was kind of looking at drivers like that and making you wonder, yeah, what's the story that, you know, people aren't hearing or something. And that was the interesting thing in doing the video there. So yeah, there were stories that people did and didn't know about Irwin or Petty or Roper for that matter. And the trick to try to bring in as many of those as possible in the project. So that's another one that's on there. Also brought up here, I showed the New Hampshire program from earlier. If that's up here as well, the one from the July race. The Dr. Pepper can here is the thing that the Tony Roper diecast came in. And I guess they had like a giveaway back then. It still shows the 2000 season and the Washington Irving Motorsports car there. There's definitely a history behind that team that's also brought up in the video as well, talking about his Busch Series career before his Truck Series career. And the reason that he went from the Busch Series back to the Truck Series that season is featured in. And it was critical in driving the Dr. Pepper machine that year. So yeah, it's got had like an action performance box inside of it and had that. So that was pretty interesting from there. So I was glad that you know, I was going to do that with pictures of that car on the track there at Phoenix when we were back up there. Unfortunately, I just found this recently, so it didn't come in the mail until after we got back. But that was an interesting deal there. We'll probably do some more. I like doing all the pictures of the cars on the track there during the track weekend. So we'll probably do some more stuff with that. Bob could commentate on washing the dishes or a slot car race to make it a classic. Yep, that's true. That's true. I mentioned it before, but yeah, I mean the Bobs were my I wouldn't, maybe not heroes, but definitely people I admired or respected for how well they did their craft, between ESPN broadcaster Bob Jenkins and oceanographer Dr. Robert Ballard, who discovered the Titanic. I think those were two big things that featured a lot for me. But let's see. Do we have more firm one? I mean, we pretty much had the call, but I'd like to get it to the way that they usually have it posted on here. Whoop, what's this? Okay, here we go. Runner-up car, 21 seconds ago, Bob Pockris tweets, runner-up car loaded on the hauler, sign tech nearly done, and so far no issues, just Kyle Busch's engine getting the finishing look. Okay, so we are very close. We are on championship watch, ladies and gentlemen. We are on championship watch at this moment. So the second place car of Truex is being loaded up on the hauler. So inspection results should be very close. Once they are, we will crown our champion, whether it's one of these four right here. It could be BJ McLeod, it could be Michael McDowell, Eric Jones, or Chase Elliott. Once we do get the announcement, we will do our lightning round of the trivia segment, and we will give away the 3 certificates that are no longer accurate anymore. And we'll send the original, the one that is accurate, to the team. So that is what we are working on. Okay, I'm going to get that drawing put in a different spot pretty soon. Okay. So, Kyle's engine is last. Oh yeah, you never know. What does that qualify? Of course, even if Kyle's engine is last or if the car is last, that's still going to give the championship to McLeod. So probably no change in the outcome at that point versus what happened in the race. But will be something that's going to have to be mentioned in the article when we get that done. All right. Okay. Alrighty. So let's do a couple more questions here. And by the time we do that, we should get our call here. All right. Yeah, not yet. Okay. So any moment now. Okay, we got the Dogwoods question. Okay, we did that from Martinsville. All right. So here we go. Okay, next question. Who claimed the pole? Excuse me. Who claimed the pole in the final NASCAR Winston Cup event at North Wilkesboro? Who claimed the pole in the final NASCAR Winston Cup event at North Wilkesboro? Do not go to Racing Reference. Just go ahead and just type in your guesses. Honor system here. Who claimed the pole in the final NASCAR Winston Cup event at North Wilkesboro? Musgrave, Gordon, 16, Irvin, Jarrett, Martin, Gordon, Bodine. We got good guesses. All right. Watching the NASCAR sportsman races. I haven't caught on that yet, but I need to catch up on that. I got a playlist a mile long of stuff that I need to start watching. It's been a busy couple of months there, as you can imagine. But hopefully we'll get things settled down a little bit. And the answer is Ted Musgrave. Ooh, Harris Devane. That would be awesome. Ted Musgrave, the final pole sitter at North Wilkesboro. Great little touch there. And Ted Musgrave comes up in the video too, that we did too. So there's a little bit of crossover there as with that as well. Dante Moncrief. Okay, well, not quite. Oh, you did have to retract it. It was just fun. It's a fun name to say. All right, here we go. Next question. What major southwestern city opened a raceway in 1964? What major southwestern city opened a raceway in 1964? Can I squeeze more gravitas out of this? What major southwestern city opened a raceway in 1964? The answer, we got Phoenix, South Boston, Hanford. And the answer is indeed Phoenix. Phoenix is the answer. Here we go. Okay. Who did Dale Jarrett beat by 8 inches in a 1991 race at Michigan Speedway? Who did Dale Jarrett beat by 8 inches in a 1991 race at Michigan Speedway? Davey Allison, you guys got it. You got it, Davey Allison. Of course, 1 week after JD McDuffie's accident, and Dale Jarrett's car was carrying a JD number 70 sticker on the doors, so he brought JD to victory lane that next week in Michigan. All right, 6 for 8. So there we go. Got a good rate going. All righty. What long-running NASCAR Winston Cup oval was Bobby Allison winless at? What long-running NASCAR Winston Cup oval was Bobby Allison winless at? Winless. What long-running NASCAR Winston Cup oval was Bobby Allison winless at? Martinsville, Ontario. Martinsville. Okay. Any other guesses here? Okay. And the answer is Martinsville. Martinsville, indeed. Martinsville is the correct answer. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, next question. What letter of the alphabet does Michigan's... Sorry. Let me start over again. I was emphasizing the wrong word. What letter of the alphabet does Michigan Speedway's oval closely resemble? What letter of the alphabet does Michigan Speedway's oval closely resemble? Getting a lot of D's. A lot of D's. D, 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 D. You got the answer. Indeed, the answer is indeed the letter D. Correct. Correct. You guys got it. But uppercase. No, it's G. No. G track would be pretty cool. Okay. Who was the first Japanese American driver invited to race at Suzuka? Who was the first Japanese American driver, Japanese-American driver, invited to race at Suzuka? Okay, just I'm gonna let it sit on here. I see Bill Cipher, you're thinking about it. Go ahead and think about it. Go ahead and think about it. The first Japanese American driver invited to race at Suzuka. Fukuyama, I got no clue. Momoda, Hideo Nomo, Takumi Sato, Kenji Momoto. All right. The first Japanese American driver invited to race at Suzuka. Ooh, this could be fun. I'm going to sit on it a little longer here. Alrighty, the first Japanese American driver invited to race at Suzuka. Here comes the answer. The answer is John Kinder. John Kinder is the answer. There we go. Wouldn't have guessed that. John Kinder, first Japanese American driver invited to race at Suzuka. There we go. Yeah. No, I didn't see that one coming either. All right. Okay. Whoop. Let's get back to the Bob page. Let's get back to the Bob page. How about that? Okay. Still no call. We're going all the way. Okay. Alrighty. What make and model was the official pace car at the 1997 Daytona 500? What make and model was the official pace car at the 1997 Daytona 500? What make and model the official pace car of the 1997 Daytona 500? All right. Pontiac Grand Prix, Chevy Monte Carlo. Alrighty. Answer is Pontiac Grand Prix. There you go. Pontiac Grand Prix. Breezy B, Steven C, T-Dog Racing. There you go. Pontiac Grand Prix, correct. Wider is better. You got a V2. One of the things you live by. Okay, Okay, next question. What dapper driver started 54 of Michigan's first 55 races, yet had no wins? What dapper driver started 54 of Michigan's first 55 races, yet had no wins? What dapper driver started 54 of Michigan's first 55 races, yet had no wins? Dave Marcus getting a lot of votes. Dapper Dave Marcus, it's a good guess. But is it the right answer? Is it indeed? We're about to find out. I think he probably is Dante Moncrief. Don Meredith, there we go. It's Dapper, not Dandy. DW, okay. 54 of Michigan's first 55 races, he had no wins. The answer coming up is Dave Marcus. You guys got it. It's Marcus. You got it. You got it. Mike Tiano, thank you for your support there. The 3 before February. Excellent. I'm glad you liked it. Wingtip shoes. Okay. I'm going to take another breather here. Just for a moment, until I find the thing that I'm looking for. Where is the thing that I am looking for? Really, where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay. I'm going to take a moment here just to thank once again our Patreon members. I'm going to name them in order here that we have. First of all, Brother Flounder, Dan Bear, Jeff Brown, Calvin Ingleston, NASCARNumberSite.org, Blaze Zebratar, Gail Delaney, Matthew Miller, Spencer P. Stillwell, Luis Torres, Andrew Hayes, and Worthless Pieces of F Incorporated. Thank you so much to all of our Patreon supporters. For more information on that, check out patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock. We got some bonus incentives on there and also some new things we're going to be changing up there for the site. Looking ahead, there's some new stuff that we're going to have available for our Patreon members. So good time to go ahead and join up for that. All right. Next question. Which turn at Sears Point circles around the Tower Suites? Which turn at Sears Point circles around the Tower Suites? All right. Which turn at Sears Point circles around the Tower Suites? I believe I know this. I hope I'm getting this correct. But what do you guys think? Turn 5, 8, 10, 11, 11, 8, 11. Okay. We're all over the place. Answer coming up. Here we go. Indeed, it is turn 11. There we go. I always thought that was drag racing scoring and timing and scoring, but I guess it's suites there too. I haven't seen anybody go in that building in quite a bit. You can get in there at the very end of the paddock across from the where the tunnel dumps you out because they have the souvenir haulers all get parked in there. But yeah. All right. What three drivers had their pole speeds disqualified in the 1976 Daytona scandal? That was a good disqualification show. We're getting disqualification questions. So how about that? What three drivers had their pole speeds disqualified in a 1976 Daytona scandal? There we go. What three drivers had their pole speeds disqualified in a 1976 Daytona scandal? You don't have to have them in order. Just go ahead and name them off. Petty, Allison Yarborough, Waltrip Foyt Marcus, Pearson Petty Waltrip, Waltrip Allison Parsons. You're right. Oops, take a second longer to load. Okay, interesting. Okay, the answer indeed is Foyt Waltrip Marcus. There we go. Tango Wolf 09, you got it. There you go. And Maserati 9, you got it. And there you go. Bill Cipher, you got it. Oh, and Sedhead 2 going for extra points there with Ramos Stott and Terry Bivens. You get an extra point on that one. Yes, you do. All right. Okay. Who won the 1950 Southern 500 despite being the slowest qualifier? Who won the 1950 Southern 500 despite being the slowest qualifier? We have one guess for Johnny Beauchamp, Johnny Mance, Frank, Johnny Mance. The 1950 Southern 500 despite being the slowest qualifier. Do. All right, the answer is indeed Johnny Mance. Johnny Mance on the truck tires. Now that's interesting. I guess he was the slowest qualifier, but he didn't necessarily start last. I mean, there's the presumption that because he started 43rd, he started last because that was how big the fields were in the 98. But of course, there were like upwards of 70 to 80 cars starting the field back then. So that was about a mid-pack start. Show is longer than the actual cup race. Yeah, we're going all the way, man. I mean, my goodness. I think I really am going to push the articles till tomorrow. We'll see. What I might do is I might rest my eyes for a bit and then finish them. It depends on that because I'm running out of steam, folks. But I'm going to get through here. I really am enjoying doing this show though, and wrapping this up for you guys this season. So happy to do it and happy to do some more stuff here over this off season here. 82 cars exactly. Yeah, there was that one when the Studebaker that won the pole. Frank Rebel Mundy won the pole and finished last in an 82 car race, and that's just crazy stuff there. So that was nuts. All right, here we go. What track is the world's biggest stock car oval? Oh, this thing's getting tired too. What track is the world's biggest stock car oval? There we go. What track is the world's biggest car oval? The answer is, of course, Talladega. Of course, it's Talladega. There you go. All right. Okay. All right. Here we go. Who founded Speedway Motorsports Incorporated? All right. Biggest ovals in South America. Okay. Who founded Speedway Motorsports Incorporated is the question. The question is, who founded Speedway Motorsports Incorporated? That is the full question. Lisa France, Marcus Smitty, Bruton Smith, along with Curtis Turner, excuse me. Who founded Speedway Motorsports Incorporated? Seeing a lot of votes for Bruton Smith. What is the answer going to be? Here we go. The answer is indeed, it's Bruton Smith. There you go. It is Bruton Smith is the answer. That's correct. All right. What Air Force base is nestled next to Las Vegas Motor Speedway? What Air Force base, the name of the Air Force base, is nestled next to Las Vegas Motor Speedway? Nellis is the first guess. Nellis. The Nellis Strait. I believe you are correct. And yes, you are correct. It is indeed the Nellis Air Force Base. Correct. All right. What year in the 90s did Charlotte get permanent lights? What year in the 90s did Charlotte get permanent lights? 1992. 92. Do. Okay. Alrighty. What year? 1992. Of course, you guys got it. There we go. Okay. Here we go. Here's another good one. Okay, next question. How many cars finished on the lead lap at the inaugural Brickyard 400? There we go. Don't look at Racing Reference. Just jump in. Just jump in with any guess. How many cars finished on the lead lap at the inaugural Brickyard 400? First guess is 16, 13, 7, 5. No such thing as a bad guess. Only bad guess is the guess you don't make. 14, 12, 12. Any other guesses? Any other guesses? All right. And the answer is 16. 16. Set head 2. You got it right off the top of the board, man. Big Blue Attack, you got it too. 16 is the correct answer. All right. Okay. Okay. I'm going to need to take just a moment here. I'll be right back. It's going to be an empty seat for just a moment. I need to take care of something, and I will be back. We will pick up where we left off. I don't have a play video here, so yeah, just one moment, folks. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. You missed me? Make sure I didn't miss anything else here in the meantime. Okay. We are back. We are back. All right. Do we have any? This shouldn't surprise me. I was expecting a long haul this evening. Wasn't exactly sure how long necessarily, but it looks like we're pretty doggone close. But horseshoes and hand grenades. We want to make sure we get the actual call here. We didn't come all this way since the beginning of the season to do that. Can do some questions about Freak. That'd be cool. That'd be more NASCAR man's territory. That was his idea to do the video there on that, so he would be the good one to talk to on that. That was a really fun video to do. I liked all the reading off all those different nicknames that people named their vehicles. I thought that was a lot of fun. Hey there, Doctor Who 3029. Welcome aboard to the group here. We are currently still waiting for disqualification results. Last report we had was that the second place car of Martin Truex is being loaded up, and that car, Kyle Busch's championship winning car, or at least unofficially championship winning car, has passed inspection. The engine has been removed. We still do not have a final call, though, from our good friend Bob Pockris, although we are getting plenty of information that seems to indicate that it's only a matter of time until they do the actual final statement. The most recent one saying getting close to a final finishing call. So we are now a number of hours on that. Yeah, Slapshoe's videos on the 92 Hooters 500 is good too. I watched that on my lunch break at work. So that was a pleasant thing to watch there as well. All right. Okay, here we go. Next question. Whose 1987 qualifying time at Daytona was an amazing 210.364 miles per hour? Whose 1987 qualifying time at Daytona was an amazing 210.364 miles per hour? Who is Bill Elliott? Well, you are correct. You are correct indeed. It is Bill Elliott. We have a call. I see Racer 10-6 2000 is a call. Do we have a call here in the Pockris page? We should be right on top of it. Hang on, folks. Hang on, folks. Here it is. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Let's put it up on the big screen. As of 6:59 p.m. At my time on November 17th, 2019, Kyle Busch's car has passed tech. He is the champ. Kyle Busch is your champion for 2019. Now, does this mean all the other cars passed tech? Should we? Well, let's take it by draw here as we see Will Ferrell celebrating on the screen here, right at the top of the hour. My goodness. Okay, so Kyle Busch is your champion for 2019. BJ McLeod takes another very important step towards securing the last car championship for 2019, if he hasn't already. Now, do we interpret this as meaning that all the other cars have passed inspection, or do we just kind of say that that's it, and then that's it? Now, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm used to the other call where they say, like, okay, everybody else passed inspection. That's it. Let's see. Dude. Huge shocker. Not. Okay, yeah. Well, there you go. He is the champion for 2019. Teen. Well, I guess if he isn't the champ, then that's not gonna, it's not gonna do the whole deal there. Okay. So that means inspections finished in general. Well, hey, let's not shoot in the dark here. Does this mean inspection is complete for the rest of the field? Question mark. And we'll wait and see on that, I guess. Oh gosh. Doot. Okay. I'm gonna do a couple more here. Just see if we get any response here on that. I know Bob's gonna be busy doing his thing and everything, but it looks like out here. Yeah. Well, we'll get the information on that. So I'm pretty sure that means that, yeah, if they've already called that Truex, that Kyle Busch is your champion for this season, I'm sure that means that they're already loading up and packing stuff up. So I think it should be good. Hey, Alex Johanning, welcome aboard. Just in time for me to do another couple of trivia questions here, and you're just in time. We're gonna be very, very close to giving out certificates. I like to commemorate the moment here that we ultimately, the one that hangs in the balance at the moment, still BJ McLeod in the number 53 AQRE app Chevrolet was in the race today and locking up the championship with his 3 last place finishes and prevailing in a tiebreaker. So that is where we are at the moment. Put that over there. Okay. Had to reinstall Adobe because of Windows updates. Yep. Well, I know the struggle, man. Alrighty. What track hosted the racing debut of the Ford Taurus in 1998? What track hosted the racing debut of the Ford Taurus in 1998? Alrighty. Daytona. Everybody's jumping on Daytona. Let's shoot out at Daytona. And the answer is indeed Daytona. There we go. All right. Do. All right, next question. What track is found on Volunteer Parkway? What track is found on Volunteer Parkway? Next question here. What track is found on Volunteer Parkway? I guess it's for Bristol, Nashville, Bristol. And the answer is indeed Bristol. The answer is indeed Bristol Motor Speedway. All right. Next one. Alrighty. What Midwest state is home for Crawford County Speedway and West Liberty Raceway? What Midwest state is home for Crawford County Speedway and West Liberty Raceway? Which state has Crawford County Speedway and West Liberty Raceway? Wisconsin, Kentucky, Missouri, Wisconsin. Sounds like a chant. It's like, do. And the answer is indeed Iowa is the answer. Iowa is the location for Crawford County Speedway and West Liberty Raceway are both in Iowa is the answer. Yeah, that's a difficult one. There we go. Video on Prism Motorsports. That would be fun. Be hard to get a lot of footage, though. That's always a challenge with videos. Got to kind of get something, a subject matter that has a lot of content. But it's an interesting subject, certainly. There's always these teams kind of shrouded in mystery a little bit. All right. How many miles were run in most Daytona Beach and road course races? Okay. We got a little bit of a reading comprehension thing from our earlier question here. How many miles were run in most Daytona Beach and road course races? 100? 100? Any other guesses? 100? Can I say it with the same inflection each time? 150? Oh. And the answer is 160. 160 miles of the average. So, okay, so the Daytona Beach road course races at 39 laps and 160 miles. Man, oh man. Yeah, so you're right. There you go. Alex, yeah, you're right under it. Right under it. Yeah, I know. This is getting tough. It really is. It starts getting to math, and I'm really lost. Okay. Thank you to Twitter user Cody Tabor, who has linked a tweet from Matt Weaver. I'm not reading this off. I'm actually saying this. Matt Weaver's tweet here. And now I will read off Weaver's tweet from 1 minute ago. Inspection is clear for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series garage. Winner and champion confirmed. Kyle Busch is officially the 2019 champion. The 4, 11, and 19 cars will be taken back to NASCAR R&D for a teardown. The 95 had one unsecured lug nut. Ladies and gentlemen, that will move us to the lightning round. We haven't forgotten about that. Lightning round time, folks. But first and foremost, we have to do the very, very, very important business. Assuming that I left my pen here. I have this pen, but is it as good as the pen that I use? There it is. Bingo. So, ladies and gentlemen, your 2019 NASCAR Cup Series champion is BJ McLeod. Congratulations to BJ McLeod and the number 51 team, number 51, 52, and 53 teams at Rick Ware Racing. BJ McLeod, your NASCAR Cup Series champion, successfully defending his narrow lead over a bevy of other contenders there in the back of the field. So again, congratulations to BJ. This certificate will be dropped in the mail this week and headed up to Rick Ware Racing, where hopefully, I'll see if we can actually get like a picture or something, because JJ Ailey gave us a fantastic picture at Phoenix. I'm going to see if we can't get something like that. That would be great. I had the good fortune of speaking with BJ during one of these last place runs over at Darlington this year. Very cool guy, really easy to talk to there, and really appreciate what he does over there at Rick Ware Racing. So the leader coming into there has the champion. Yes, don't forget the 54. You're right, 54 car as well. So there we go. So BJ McLeod. So now we have. Let me make sure we put this aside. I'm going to set this over here. Now we are going to be entering the lightning round. So we have these other certificates here. And again, to thank you guys for sticking with me here. We still have 22 people in the chat. Thank you so much for sticking around and for having a great season this year. We'll probably do some more shows here along the way in the off season, but we're going to give away 3 certificates here. So we got one for Michael McDowell, we got one for Eric Jones, and we got one for Chase Elliott. So we'll just start off in that order. And what we'll do is we're going to go into the wild card round on the Trivial Pursuit. And we're going to go here. So these are going to be the rules. So We're going to do 3 different questions on here. And the first person to get the correct answer in the chat, will win the certificate. If you win a certificate, you'll be eliminated from winning the next one. So we make sure we get 3 different people winning one of these. And I'll sign it myself right here, and we'll send that out. So that'll be a nice little something to wrap up the season here. So again, thank you again for following along here. And we'll do some more programs like this, hopefully over the off season and into the beginning of next year. So lightning round is underway. Let's go to the wild card question. Let me see if we get a good question. I want to get a good hard one here. That's going to be a good one. Let me move that. Let me skip that one. Okay, no. Okay, wild card. Okay, here we go. All right, you guys ready? This first round is going to be, this is exciting. Okay, first round is going to be for the Michael McDowell certificate. So Michael McDowell, not quite the last card champ this year, but whoever wins, whoever gets the first correct answer on this one in the order that shows up on the chat page here, first correct answer is going to go home with this one. So get your hands on the buzzers, and we will begin here in just a moment. Okay, for the Michael McDowell certificate, here is the question. Question is, what rookie started all 26 NASCAR Busch Series races in 1996? What rookie started all 26 NASCAR Busch Series races in 1996? For the McDowell certificate, go ahead and put in your guesses right now. What rookie started all 26 NASCAR Busch Series races in 1996? I'll go ahead and wait a while here so we get as many people getting their guesses on here as possible. What rookie started all 26 NASCAR Busch Series races in 1996? Okay. So, all right. So we got Johnson, we got Sadler, we got Irwin, we got Green and Earnhardt. Okay. All righty. So the answer is Glenn Allen Jr. Glenn Allen Jr. is the answer. My goodness, it stumped the group. Okay, we go to the next question. Nobody got that one? No one got it. Wow. Okay, this is wild card for a reason. It's okay. We got 24 people in the chat now. It's going to get more competitive. All righty. Don't be afraid to put your answers in. Yeah, that's what it says. Glenn, you can't probably see it very well, but yeah. Glenn Allen Jr. is the answer on that one. It's not very good. The other camera was better at that. Glenn Allen, Glennallen Jr. Glenn Allen Jr. This is from what rookie ran all 26 Busch Series races in 1996? 96. Alrighty. Okay. Here we go. These are hard. These are okay. Here we go. Here's a good one. Next question for the McDowell certificate. Still up for grabs. What driver was American Speed Association runner-up 9 times? Oh boy, here we go. What driver was American Speed Association runner-up 9 times? Punch in your guesses now. Jump on it as quick as you can. What driver was American Speed Association runner-up 9 times? And yeah, if you just get last name, that's fine. Gary St. Amant, Earnhardt, Martin, Clark. What driver was American Speed Association runner-up 9 times? All right. We got the list still going here. Oop, come on. Don't want to lose the mouse now. Rusty Wallace, Mark Miller. Okay, we got a good selection here. Okay, we're going to get the answer. Answer coming up right here. The answer is Dick Trickle. Said head 2. You got it, man. There we go. You have just won yourself the Michael McDowell certificate. There you go, buddy. So I'm going to make a note here. What I'm going to do is to get your mailing details, just send me, you can either send me a message on the Twitter or you can send me an email on, I'll drop my email address here. I should do that. It's the best way to reach me. That's where I get all my traffic for that. You can drop me an email at that one at gmail.com. That's where I get most of my traffic there for that. So shoot me your mailing address on the email. Don't post it in here. Don't post it in here. We don't want anybody doxing anybody on themselves here. So send it privately on the email, and I'll make sure that we send that out to you. Okay. So I'm going to make note here. This is said head 2. Okay. And said Ed, you're still welcome to participate. Oh, you're on Facebook too? Okay, that works fine too. Anyway, whatever's easiest. Alrighty. So you're still welcome to participate in these next 2 rounds, but if you get the right answer, I'll go to the next person that has the right answer. So we'll get that together. So I'm going to put that over here by the McLeod one. All right, next up is going to be the Eric Jones one. Eric Jones. So, okay. Okay. Next question. Let's get this fired up here. So the next one for the Eric Jones certificate. Wild card question. Okay, no, that one's too easy. That was too easy. Okay, here we go. Next question. Yeah, you got an ASA question. See, I wouldn't have got that one either. Okay. Who was dubbed Little David for beating hometown Goliaths at their tracks? Who was dubbed Little David for beating hometown Goliaths at their tracks? Who was dubbed Little David, which driver, excuse me, for beating hometown, quote, Goliaths at their tracks? DW, Pearson, Marcus, DW, Allison, David Starr, Allison. Okay, I'll wait for some more answers to come in here. Who was dubbed Little David for beating hometown Goliaths at their tracks? And like the last one, if nobody gets it right, we'll move it on to the next one and we'll go from there. All right. Who was dubbed Little David for beating hometown Goliaths at their tracks? Okay, we got Pearson, we got Rudeman, we got all kinds all over the place. Okay. All right, the answer. Answer coming up. Here comes the answer. The answer is David Pearson. David Pearson, V2. You just got yourself the Eric Jones certificate. Same thing for you, man. Make sure you drop me either an email. I'll sign it right here. All right, it's V2 underscore. Okay, same thing. You're free to send an email, message on Twitter, whatever is easiest there. And I'll jot that down and we will get that one out. It's all right, Bill Cipher. We still got another one here. And this isn't going to be the only time we're going to do something like this. We're going to look at doing some other stuff here along the way. Okay. You got me on Facebook too? Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. So we'll get those messages there. So we'll set those aside. All right. Last one. Our qualifier from Phoenix, Chase Elliott, the Chase Elliott certificate. Couldn't quite pull this one off this week. The championship 4 versus the other championship 4. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into this one. All righty. Final question of the night. Final question of the 2019 season. All right. No, not that one. That one's too easy. That one's too easy. No. Come on. Everybody was going to get that one. No. Oh, no. Come on. Okay. Here we go. I don't know if this one's easy or not, but we're going to go ahead and go with it. Okay, here we go. For the Chase Elliott certificate, get your hands on the buzzers. All righty. First person to get this one here. What driver was dubbed, quote, Old Wood Chopper? What driver was dubbed Old Wood Chopper? What driver was dubbed Old Wood Chopper? Jump right in. Anybody, any guesses on that? What driver was dubbed Old Wood Chopper? See if we get any other guesses on here. We'll give it a bit more time here. All right. List is slowing down a bit, so it looks like we may have this here. We're going to get the answer. Okay. Anybody else want to do some late guesses? Okay. Looks like we're going to get ready for the answer. Okay. All righty. The answer is Glenn Wood. There we go. Glenn Wood. Tango Wolf 09. There you go, man. You got it. Eddie Bierschwal. Man, that would be awesome. Excellent. Excellent. And we got you here. Alrighty. And we'll put that on here. So same thing. Yeah. Be sure to just contact me, email, Facebook, anything on there. We'll get your address and we'll shoot that right on out to you. So thank you again so much, everyone, for participating in this. For those of you, if you do want to print out your own version of these, I have actually uploaded the original files for these on my Twitter page. I posted those before the race. So they're still printable on 8.5 by 11 paper. So it'll still work out there for you. So if you want any of these for your own account, or if you want to make wallpaper out of them or anything like that, they're all available on there. So congratulations to our winners here. And thank you again so much, everyone, for sticking with me and sticking with us over here at lastcar.info. It's been an incredible season, a lot of stuff to follow. We had a lot of great stuff going on over at the track and everything this year. Gosh, we got Ernie Irvin a copy of the JD book. We got to go up to Canada and cover some international racing for the first time. We were at we pulled the night shift over at Darlington and then came back to Phoenix there and got to meet with Tommy Joe Martins there on pit road during one of his great runs. It was a great season there. Lots of ups and downs and all that, but we're looking ahead to do a lot more next year. We're looking ahead to do a lot more coverage, a lot more stuff for the website. We're going to get the articles up there as soon as we can, if not tonight, first part of tomorrow. So we get the whole full review on here. But again, thank you so much, everyone, for your support. Be sure to check out 3 Before February right on this same channel there. If you want to check it out, make sure you share as many of these videos as you can with your friends and anybody else that's interested in that. If you're unable to join the Patreon, like I say, that is the best way that you can help out this channel and this site as we look ahead towards 2020 and getting things going. So again, congratulations to our champions, both the championship 4 that competed in the Cup Series today and our Last Car Championship 4. And once again, a big congratulations to BJ McLeod, our 2019 Last Car Cup Series champion, joining JJ Yaley in the Xfinity Series and Joe Nemechek in the Truck Series. So again, we're going to do some more. We'll probably do some videos here off and on over the off season here. We'll have some more updates for you here at the Twitter at Last Car on Brock. The website is lastcar.info and the Patreon is patreon.com/lastcaronbrock. Thank you again so much, everyone. I really do mean that. I appreciate all your guys' support and have a wonderful holiday season. And February is just right around the corner. Oh, you got a question, Big Blue? I'll let you go ahead and put it in the chat here. I'm going to call it good here on the video, but thank you so much.